You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And we're back with another episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. This week, what a week. So much. For starters, I celebrated my wedding anniversary. It's been 4 years of marital bliss in this lovely abode. 4 years. We've been together for 11 years, but 4 years married. I know, time flies. A lot of you all have said that. Like, you saw our anniversary pictures and you're like, it's been 4 years already? Yes, it has. 4 days after I turned 30 years old, I got married to Mr. Johnson at the Penn Museum, which holds a special place for us because Penn Museum is like the beginning of both of our times on Penn's campus. There were NSO, New Student Orientation. It's the opening of our introduction to the city. And it's, a connection there. I met him his freshman year. And here we are, 11 years later, 4 years married. And all of my friends who were a part of our wedding, Dr. Parks and Nina, Samantha, and everyone, that museum holds a lot of history for all of us. It was like a gathering place of when I first kind of entered the scene in a very iconic way. And so from, leotards to golden custom tuxedos, we arrived. So, yeah, such a memory. I thought about that the day. I was like, wow, the last time I was there, my first time I was there, I was in a gold leotard. It was a toga party. And then to be married in that same building years later, like, who'd have thought? So, it was just reflective, but we celebrated it. We were in DC. I feel like every year we celebrate our anniversary, we have always gone out of town, and it's always a different city doing a restaurant experience coupled with everything else. So like we went to Cleveland. We did the whole Cleveland experience. I think it was Cleveland or Cincinnati. I think it was Cleveland. No, it was Cincinnati. It was in Ohio. Cleveland, Ohio. We was in Cincinnati, I believe. Yes, it was Cincinnati. It wasn't Cleveland. Because I went to Cleveland for something else. It was Cincinnati. And we saw the Wiz, and then we did some great restaurants over there. Then the next year we did, where did we go? We did Chicago. We did Chicago last year. Yeah, we did Chicago. We did Chicago last year. We went to second, third, fourth. Yes. So the our first year anniversary, we didn't go out of town, I don't think. I think we just kept it, because I think that was around the pandemic time still. I think we just did something in Philly. Yeah, we did something in Philly. We went to Alpen Rose, and that's when we bumped into Zach Wilka, who is the executive director of Independence Business Alliance. He's gay. We got married the same day. It was we got married the same day, October 16th, 2021. And we talked about it like it was like, because he would have came to my wedding or vice versa. And we didn't do that because we both got married the same day. And then ironically, the next year, on our 1 year anniversary, that was a really interesting year for so many reasons. We went to Alpen Rose for dinner. And on the same day of our anniversary, 1 year anniversary, we both was at the same restaurant, had the same reservation time. And that was also the same year that Mr. Johnson and I had the same exact anniversary gifts for each other. It's same exact gift. And we literally went through all this to hide it, knew we wasn't going to have the same gift, whatever. That's when we realized that we were like connected, like very, very connected. I mean, on so many levels, but that was like a what? So yeah, what a coincidence. And then the next year for our second year anniversary, we went out of town and went to Cincinnati, and we saw the Wiz when they were on their national tour before they went to Broadway. And so that was a good show. Who was Glinda the Good Witch? It was, she's an icon. Deborah Cox. Yes, Deborah Cox was Glinda the Good Witch in the Oz musical. This was the what they call this? It was not a remake. It was the revival. So it came back to Broadway. It was good. I liked it. I know the critics were all funny about it. It got snubbed at the Tonys that year. Anything by Candy Burris, the Tonys, the Broadway community, the way they treat Candy Burris. And Candy is the singer from Escape. She's the Grammy Award winner who wrote No Scrubs. And she's, of course, was iconic on The Real Housewives of Atlanta. She was OG. Her and her husband, Todd. They've left the show about over a year ago, and the show hasn't been the same since. But they're big entrepreneurs, and one of their big endeavors lately has been being producers on Broadway. So they produced The Wiz, and they also produced Othello, which was with Denzel and Jake Gyllenhaal. I said Denzel casually, Denzel Washington and Jake Gyllenhaal. And that show didn't get really any major love from the Tonys either, any nominations. It was like snubbed, and it was like, I don't get it. Like, these are like interesting shows that deserve some attention, but for whatever reason, the Broadway community just do not really give her her gots. So she's back again. She's supposed to be doing something, Joe something, what other show? Come and Go, or whatever that show is in August, another August Wilson production. I think it's Joe Turner Come and Gone or whatever. She's supposed to be getting involved in that. And hopefully, I think Taraji is supposed to be on that show, and Cedric the Entertainer, perhaps, but there's another big old show coming, and so she's supposed to be producing that. So hopefully, the acting, the Broadway love, maybe there's some Tony nominations for that production, but they just don't read like Candy Burris and Todd. It's just been an observation I've known. I've gone to some Broadway shows, as you all know, but I'm like, what is it going to take? Because I think she really low-key wants an EGOT. I don't know how she's going to get the Oscar, but she's already got the Grammy. She seems to want the Tony now. She's just doing a lot to try to get there. She wants to get, I think she low-key wants the EGOT. We'll see. So that being said, our 3rd year anniversary, went to Chicago, and we really went to some really nice restaurants. That Michelin star, big critically acclaimed. Went to Smith, which is one of my all-time favorite restaurants of all time. Went to Smith. We went to Avec, and we went to, of course, Virtue, which is a classic Black-owned restaurant. And that was in Chicago, and we saw Usher. This year, we was in D.C. We just, kept it very low-key because there's so much going on in Chicago. Got their things going on. We didn't want to leave. We wanted to get out of Philly, but we didn't want to go to New York because we always go to New York a lot. But it was like, what is around that we have not done? And there was a really good restaurant scene in D.C., so we did D.C., which also worked out because the SBJ, Society of Professional Journalists, had their Media Fest, their convention in D.C. around the same time. So it was like all these good things. And I serve on the SBJ Foundation's board. So there was a great opportunity to do the best of both worlds. We got the DC experience. I got a chance to, of course, do some business, but also get out the city and really have a nice time. So we had a nice hotel in downtown DC. We was literally right next to Capitol Hill. We got to see all the monuments, all that. But we went to the restaurants, and the restaurants were everything. DC was DCing. We went to Doggone, which is owned by Chef Kwame, who is the owner of Tatiana in New York City, the raved about restaurant. Doggone has also been raved about. Great restaurant. It's the best way to describe it. It is it's a fusion between soul food and Caribbean elements. Tatiana is more on the West African soul food tip, I would say. But and also a little bit of New York, like definitely New York influences as well. New York Black, New York street food combined. So there's a fusion of soul food, Black, New York energy with the flair and the flavor and love of also West African cuisine. Doggone has a little bit of that as well, but I would say definitely the Caribbean elements to it combined with, there is also the West African elements. There's jollof rice in the menu. So it's a little bit of that too. He's got that flair, but more so on the Caribbean side of things with a little bit of West African influence, but definitely Caribbean. And definitely soul food. Like there's those elements as well. Incredible restaurant. Honestly, which one is better? Tatiana Doggone. People will debate. Both of them are exceptional restaurants, to be honest. Both are exceptional. Let me just start off by saying that before I give you my answer, because I am not going to be Cory Booker and give you, these very poetic responses that gives you no answer. I'm going to get to my answer. There is an answer for me. I have made my decision. But I am going to say before I get to that decision that I want to be very clear that this is like comparing. Oh, I don't even know. I don't even get in trouble. I mean, both are just exceptionally really well. I mean, you know what this reminds me of? This is like comparing who should have won Best Actress at the Oscars the year that Cate Blanchett went against Michelle Yeoh. Cate Blanchett in Tar versus Michelle Yeoh in Everything Everywhere All at Once. To be quite honest, both of them were phenomenal performances. And honestly, I would say the only reason why I supported Michelle Yeoh was because I felt like, one, we need to have Asian representation in the lead actress category. Also, Cate Blanchett already had 2 Oscars. But quite frankly, both of those performances were good. And honestly, either one of them were worthy and either one of them were great. And Michelle Yeoh won and she should have won. But quite frankly, it was by a nose and it was by my own, some of my biases, because Cate Blanchett in Tar is fucking phenomenal. You would put Cate Blanchett in that category any other year and she would have won any other year, to be quite honest. She ate. It is still like that. That's a situation where two good like performances in a year, we were spoiled with riches that year. People say that's the case with the Tonys. No, it wasn't. Audra McDonald should have won. But I ain't gonna hold you. Old Girl in Sunset Boulevard, Nicole Scherzinger is not bad either. But again, Audra McDonald should have won. She was robbed. But again, people argue that they were 2 neck and neck. That was a hot race too. So sometimes you just get a race where it's just that close. And so Tatiana versus Doggone, I mean, both of them are incredible. However, I will say my answer is Doggone. I think Doggone is better than Tatiana. And I will say the reason why is several interesting details. They have so much in common. But I feel like Doggone is more disciplined in its culinary focus. Everything has a rhyme and a reason that is culinary-wise aligned. Like the flavors and all the ingredients make sense. With Tatiana, there are a lot of nodes to like New York in a way that if you don't pick up on it, you don't pick up on it. Like certain desserts, certain things. And so sometimes just kind of feel like, okay, but this is just a snack cake. Like I get that you're giving love to New York, but come on, these prices for this restaurant, it is not a cheap restaurant. It is it is expensive. But it's worth every dime. It's worth every damn penny. Because let me tell you about restaurants like this. And I'm going to say this before I get into Albi, because we're going to get into our restaurants. Okay. But let me say this. When you go to a restaurant like Tatiana and Doggone, you do not just pay for the food. You pay for the experience. This is a culinary experience. Everything makes sense, from the plating to the serving to the music to the playlist to the vibe. It is an experience. You are, and this is for people who are into it. I hate the word foodie. Stop saying foodie. Real adults are not fucking foodies. We are restaurant enthusiasts. We are connoisseurs. We are fine dining, experts. Like we're not. This is not for foodies or people like snacks and little restaurants. I hate that word. Do not call me that. I check people every time they do. They say I'm a foodie like you. No, you're not, bitch. Because I'm not a fucking foodie. You go somewhere with that. Does that make sense? I know that might sound a little crass, but I just need to say that because I get annoyed with that term. Like foodie is what you influencers call themselves. They go places and they take pictures of little food, a little ice cream, and they're like, I'm a foodie. Like that's silly. Okay. See, let me tell you the difference between a foodie and a fine dining connoisseur, a restaurant enthusiast, right? Let me tell you the difference between that. Because one, when you go to a restaurant like Doggone or Tatiana or Albi or some of these other places I've been to, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you're not just talking about the food. You're not talking about the food. We're not the same. If you're a foodie is all about just, oh, what I'm eating and what it tastes like. That's cute. That's what a foodie is. Bitch, I'm not a foodie. I'm not a foodie. I'm not. I'm a restaurant enthusiast because I am interested in several things. The food is one part of the experience. I'm interested in who are the chefs? Who are the chefs? Where is this restaurant located? Where did you get this wine? Where did these ingredients come from? Tell me a story. And in a restaurant, right, a chef appreciates restaurant enthusiasts, okay? They're into connoisseurs. We want to know things. It tells me something, right? There is a level of intellectual sentiment behind what this is about. So when I go to places, influencers, food influencers, right? And that's what they said, they're foodies, right? They want to talk about, the food is good. It's kind of just, the portions are small and come with me. They have no education. They wouldn't know what to do with this restaurant. I'm going to throw some shade, but I have to go there. There was a blogger, food writer, whatever, from the Infatuation that went to Honeysuckle and gave it a review. And the way that they talked about that restaurant, I said, this is trash. This review is trash. You don't know what you're talking about. You're misinformed. You don't even know what you're eating. You don't understand the themes. You have no rhyme or reason or range. And quite frankly, why are you doing this? And so you call it elitism if you want to. No, it's not. It's called being educated. And it's actually informed. And we need to stop. Like, there is a whole assault on intellectualism. We are in an anti-intellectual era right now where people don't know what they're talking about. And when you tell them they don't or they're misinformed, they go, you're an elitist. No, you're just dumb. Maybe that's what we just need to do. We'll talk about what went down with Marc Lamont Hill and all that with the Joe Budden show. But it's time. It's time. I've been waiting for this moment. I think people are finally over anti-intellectualism. We're not there all the way, but the tide is turning. Smart people are getting the fuck up, long overdue, and telling people to shut your dumb ass up. We have to start telling people that. We have to start telling people, you're actually wrong. You know why? Because people are dying. Misinformation and ignorance are killing people. Ignorance is not bliss anymore. Never has been, to be quite honest. But just going off of vibes and a lack of reading and a lack of comprehension is actually killing people and leading to ignorant people being elected, and it's fucking over our lives. No, I'm not meeting people where they are. Meet me the fuck where I'm at. Get on my level. Okay? And let me say this. Let me say it why I'm saying this way. Uninformed people who are in a position to want to be learned. I am not debating dumbass people. I am teaching them. You're not my peer. You're not my equal. You have not put your time and effort to educate yourself and inform yourself on what you're talking about. And so this is a teaching moment for you. This is a learning experience for you. And I am going to be a professor and I'm going to educate you. And I'm talking about people out here in these spaces that want to sit up here and challenge folks that have done the research, read the book, and have taken the time to really educate themselves. I am so tired of people thinking they can walk into a space, offer their feelings, and tell people about something. Actually, that's not how it works. Do you want your doctor to just tell you that I feel like you should take this medication? I don't know what it will do to you, but I feel like that's how it is and that's how I feel. You would not. You would not do it to an attorney, a lawyer that says, look, I'm going to prescribe that we're going to not give you, we're going to recommend you take the plea deal. Why? Because that's just how I feel. I don't really know why. I don't really know the statutes of limitations. Like, you would never want an uninformed lawyer or a doctor. So why do you want uninformed journalists? Why do you want uninformed media practitioners and people out here putting out misinformation? Why do you accept that anywhere else? Why do you want your school teachers teaching your kids to be uninformed? Like, where else is that acceptable? So we need to respect the craft. We need to respect people who are putting in the time and the energy to educate themselves and know what this information is. It is no longer a space. And if that makes me elite to some of you people, I'll be an elite expert. Listen, let's look up the word elite, because elite don't mean what it means to some of you people. You talk about elitism. I don't think I'm better than somebody. I think I'm more informed sometimes. Sometimes thinking that you're more informed than a person might just be what it is. So if you want to call me an elitist for that, then fine. But guess what? I won't be dumb. I won't be dead. I won't be misinformed. I won't be clueless. I won't be ignorant. So if that's what you want to say, if you want to misuse the word elitism and elitist, then fine. I didn't say people who are not educated don't matter. I didn't say that people who are not educated, should not be. Let's educate them. Actually, it's what I'm doing. It's the service. I'm not saying they should stay in the dark and not be informed. I'm saying let's help them. Let's get people to where they are. Let's evolve. Let's grow people. Let's get people out of the dark. But what I don't support are entitled egomaniac ingrates. I don't support that. I don't support people who are blind and loud and wrong that are going to sit up and lead us to a pathway of destruction. At some point, you got to listen to the smart person in the room. At some point, we got to acknowledge what we don't know and lean into it. And we got to respect people who's put in the time and effort. I mean, why is the rookie now being able to be in the VP seat? Why are we letting a rookie, would you let a rookie play in the All-Star leagues? No, you're an elitist, Ernest. Why are you going to tell the rookie that they can't be starter? Because if you don't actually have the skill set and the time put in place, I don't think that's a good idea. No, Ernest, you're an elitist. The rookie should be able to play however they want. No, Ernest, doctors don't have to have medical licenses in order to, pharmacists don't have to have, Ernest, that's elitist to say that they have to have a pharmaceutical certification, Ernest. That's just so elitist. Well, fuck it. If that's how you want to use that word, I think that, to be honest, I think that people who use that term and weaponize that term are insecure about where they are on where they stand in their expertise in their world. And so rather than actually sit back and learn and acknowledge that, they would rather use insults and pejoratives to try to derail people from actually trying to teach them something so they can be better. And that sounds like a personal problem. So back to the point I want to get to, because I feel like we've already arrived at this, and I think it's time to have those conversations. I think that there are a lot of people out here who don't understand how to really inform people in restaurants or movies or books or arts. People don't read books often. They want to have opinions about them. People don't watch certain movies. They don't understand cinema. And here's the thing. You are entitled to those opinions, but you're not entitled to your own facts. And so when people make remarks of saying things like this food writer, and I'm being nice by saying food writer, but I'll be nice. I want to say food blogger, because what the fuck was that? They try to compare honeysuckle to honeysuckle provisions. And that to me was the major red flag. First of all, honeysuckle provisions was a cafe that was in West Philly. It was a cafe. They'd even serve dinner there. Why would you compare a cafe to a full-seated, full-service restaurant? That was the first red flag. Then they began to talk about some of the dishes and things. I was like, what's going on here? So there's just a miseducation. And so I want to be clear that I am not a foodie. Do not put me in a foodie box, because I'm interested in a restaurant on so many levels. I could talk about pricing. Pricing is important. I could talk about chefs. I want to talk about the actual concept of the menu. I want to talk about what their direction is, their ingredients, their sourcing. I want to talk about their flavor profile. I want to talk about so many other things. And that's how you can give a real review. And we need to bring back art criticism, because it seems like people are missing an intellectual muscle of understanding criticism and understanding how to give proper criticism and how to actually understand the art of that, so that we don't go around just saying something's mid and something's up and something's down without actual proper analysis. Like, what's wrong with being smart? What's wrong with being intelligent? What's wrong with reading? And why is ignorance treated as a sense of relatability? No matter where I was in my financial class bracket, okay, I've come from a working class background. Now I'm upper middle class, they say. Listen, no matter where I was, I always had a hunger to learn. And I think it's actually very condescending to assume that relatability and intellectual prowess cannot be married together, because a lot of people actually do aspire to be. How did I get to an Ivy League school on a full ride without having any parents that had monetary means to pay for my tuition or have the connections or any of those things? How did I get there? Because I had an intellectual hunger and fascination. And it doesn't matter what class level you are. You can always aspire for better or for great or to learn more, to be better as a person, develop yourself. And it does not make you an elitist for doing so. The mindset is, do you think you're better than a person in humanity? I don't. I think all people deserve equal rights and protections and justice. I think that all people have the right to learn and to engage. And that's what this is about. But we've missed the goal part, Mark, on that, because we've allowed ignorant people to try to define things to us, like what elitism is, the irony. And they've now weaponized of a pseudo war between the have and have-nots when it comes to education, which is not necessarily the same way. I believe access to education should be open to all people. And when you do have the resources, the means, and access to certain things, to books, right? Last time I checked, a public library is available. We should increase the public libraries. I was going to public libraries. I didn't have money when I was growing up to buy some of the books that I read. I went to a library and I rented it and I read it. And I had parents who invested in reading to me. And I went to public schools where I went to public education my entire life and had counselors and people that encouraged literacy. So let's stop acting like that this idea of not reading books and not aspiring to education in some type of degree is relatable. Like, oh, I didn't get a college degree, so-and-so said, so I'm relatable to people. Like, what does that mean? What do we mean by that? Like, are we trying to imply that there's somehow a level of depth and astuteness to people who don't or do? I don't think that's the argument we were trying to have here. I think relatability is relative. And I think that when we hear people make these types of remarks, they try to shun and shame educated folks. And I think educated people should not necessarily shun and shame those who aren't. But let's be very clear. It's not to say that you're inferior. What it's to say is you don't have the right to step in certain industries and think you know more than the people who have invested their careers and their time to it. It's just about respect. It's about lowering your placement in certain things. And that doesn't have to do with education acquirement, right? So as somebody who's lived in Philadelphia for 15 years, I do feel like I do have an informed opinion about Philadelphia as somebody who's been here for over a decade, right? Now, when I first came to Philly, I did not think I was a Philadelphia expert. I could not talk about Philly in certain ways, right? Maybe as somebody who was not born in Philly. No, I was not born in Philadelphia, okay? I was not. But I do give deference to people in Philadelphia who has been born here, who lived here for so many years. But I do feel at a certain point now that I've been a taxpayer here my entire adult life. I've been here for 15 years. I do have some things to say. Am I the prime expert on Philadelphia? No. Do I think I'm an expert in Philadelphia's restaurant scene currently in this modern era? I would give myself that credit. Can I talk about Philly politics in the current era it is? Absolutely. Can I talk about it as a historian full throttle? No. And I can do those things. I can hold multiple truths. I can recognize my range and my levels. And what do I do? Who do I lean on? I talk to Philadelphia natives. I talk to people who've been in the Philadelphia political system longer than me. I engage with people who've been on the ground and have worked on different aspects of political campaigns that I have not. I lean into that expertise. I don't weaponize it. I don't destroy it. I don't feel intimidated by it, because that's not what this is about. It's about growing and educating yourself. And so when I see people want to enter spaces and act like they're the expert, and then the moment they're challenged or they're told what they don't know, they meet it with hostility and contempt, I always tell myself, well, what is the purpose here? Is the purpose to grow and learn and evolve and be better? Or is the purpose is to just gatekeep? Or is the purpose just to simply, have an ego boost or an ego trip? I don't know. So let's get back to this criticism. Because I have been to Tatiana and Doggone, I do think that Doggone has a more focused menu based on the curation of the ingredients, based on the direction. I think Tatiana is great. The food is always wonderful. The ambiance is set. It's more of a New York era. But I think that the menu has too many things going on. There is an element of lots of love kisses to New York, but also he wants to give in that Jamaican, Caribbean, West African flair that he's known for, Kwame is, because his upbringing. But also there is this soul food knot. And I think there's so many different things going on in that menu that when I went to Doggone, it made me realize, oh my goodness, this is what I wanted from Tatiana. I felt like some of the dishes on that menu, specifically the desserts, I would say, and some of the other desserts, I felt like the main courses were strong at Tatiana. Everything was superior, but the appetizers and the dessert at Tatiana, I felt like were slightly a little disappointing because I felt that they didn't match the same level of direction and focus of what those main courses were doing. Very good in execution, understands what he's doing, and he definitely do. His technique is phenomenal. However, I felt like there was so many different love letters and influences in that menu that can be a little distracting. With Doggone, he is focused. He's intentional. He is very focused on what he wants to do and where he wants to go. And it is definitely one of the best Black-owned restaurants in America. I definitely think Doggone might be the number one best Black-owned restaurant in America right now. And listen, Black-owned fully. And also, the focal point is a homage to Black cuisine, Black influences, Black American cuisine, and also Black African cuisine as well. It's a love letter. And I think, honestly, Doggone is probably the best Black-owned restaurant in America because it has all of the different elements. It has the diaspora, it has an African diaspora that does not feel super cultural, like super performative. I want to make sure I don't want to say I'm politically incorrect, but like some of these restaurants you go to that are playing into different cultures, they feel like they have to make the whole aesthetic and they play into a very performative lens of the cuisine. What I loved about Doggone is that it's very modern, it's very chic, it's very much made by a millennial. He is a millennial chef. And he's also trying to move the culture and the cuisine forward. There's not that many modern African culinary restaurants that's invested in fine dining in the way that Kwame has done, in ways that does not feel super, again, performative. Like he does not have kente cloth on the tables. He doesn't feel the need to over garnish the dishes. He doesn't feel the need to make the plating and everything be a love letter to that West African country. And there's nothing wrong with that because he does have those origins, but he has an origin of various influences. He's got New York in him. He has Nigerian in him. He has Caribbean influences inspired in that blood. And it shows in the food. And so I really love it. Shout out to his chef de cuisine, Martel, who was great. The hospitality there was great. Mr. Johnson and I had a great time. I just really loved the restaurant a lot. The next day, I was spoiled because to go to these restaurants back to back, it reminded me of when I went to go see back to back the Pulitzer Prize, Tony Award winning play Purpose. And I saw that the night after I saw Audra McDonald perform Gypsy live, I was spoiled back to back. And I haven't been this spoiled since. The next night, Saturday night, we went to Albi, which is his Palestinian-owned restaurant. They serve Palestinian cuisine. And this is perhaps the best North American. I literally had the goats this weekend. This might be the best Middle Eastern restaurant I've been to in North America. And I say this because I've been to Israel. I've been to the Golan Heights. I have had, Middle Eastern cuisine in Israel. I've had, some food from folks that came from the West Bank. I've had authentic Middle Eastern cuisine in the Middle East. So I have to put a preference to say that the best Middle Eastern restaurant I've been to in North America was Albi. You're going to say, wait a minute, don't you like Zahav? I do. I have a fond appreciation for Zahav. Michael Solomonov is a great chef. He is a James Beard winner. Makes good food. There's no doubting there. But what I had at Albi on Saturday night, we was at the hearth table. They call it the hearth table. So we was by the fireside. And we were right there where it's only 2 tables available through the night. We got the table. We were there for like 3 hours. And we had multiple courses. And when I tell you, every single dish was outstanding. from the bread to the palate cleansing garnishes in between. The pickled cucumbers, the lamb kebabs, the hummus, just everything was delicious. I wanted to be a barbarian and lick every plate, every single morsel. That is a restaurant that's interesting. It's not Black owned, clearly. It's Palestinian owned. But what I want to say about that restaurant is that I haven't had this experience. This is probably this is like a non-Black restaurant, you know, and this was the first non-Black owned restaurant where when I came in, I felt an instant sense of welcome. And I'm not, listen, I know I've gone to a lot of other restaurants in Philly, and I'm not trying to say Philly restaurants don't do this, but let me clarify what I mean. When I go to some of these high-end restaurants in Philly, my reputation precedes me, where I feel like, I'm treated with love. It's great, but they're treating me with love because I'm Ernest Owens. So it's almost like if no one knew who I was, if I wasn't this public figure, yada, yada, yada. If I wasn't that, I don't know if I would be treated the same way. And I know this for a fact because I wrote my article. I wrote this long form piece called Dining While Black in Philly. And I wrote this 8 years ago in 2017, 2018, around that time. And I talked about that and how after that piece was written in Philadelphia, my life changed. Like every restaurant, anytime I made a reservation in my name, if I was in a place, everybody just automatically wrote the red carpet. And I'm not saying that the owners there are not disingenuous, they don't respect me. No, I'm not saying that. But there is situations where even when I go to some restaurants that I don't make a reservation in my name, like if Mr. Johnson do, or I just show up, there is a level of, and I'm not going to name the restaurants, but there's just a level of I don't know. It's just like whatever. And I'm not saying that every restaurateur should be treated with a level of hospitality. And it shouldn't matter who you are or who you're connected to. There should be a level of love. And words cannot describe that when I go to Black-owned restaurants, a lot of those restaurants that I go to, like Tatiana, like Honeysuckle, like South, all these places, I get that love. I feel it. It's a homeless. This is probably the one non-Black owned restaurant I've been to where I felt that. And you can't describe how you feel, right? Sometimes you can't, but there was a feeling of welcomeness when I went into Albee, that the moment I came in, it wasn't even like a, over flattering thing. It just felt a sense of home. And a restaurant will make you go, not about necessarily what you ate, that we'll get to the food in a minute, but how you feel. And there was just a sense of home. It just felt like they just treated me I don't know, but I felt that. And I know what that feeling feels like, but it just felt really warm in there. And the food felt good. It was a very diverse room. This is not a cheap restaurant. Let me just say that again. These are experiences, y'all. We ain't just there to pay for food. We're there for experiences. There were people that were there, loved what they were eating. They loved a restaurant. This is a restaurant lover's restaurant. I have realized in recent years that I can't go out to eat with everybody. A lot of people be like, oh, let's go out to dinner. No. Mm-mm. They say, why not? Mm-mm. Mm-mm. I don't go out to eat with everybody. Everybody wants to go out to dinner with me sometimes. They go places with me. I'm like, mm-mm. Because I see how y'all talk about restaurants. I see how y'all experience restaurants. And I don't want you to kill my buzz and my joy. I tried a couple years ago to take certain people out with me. and the way that they acted at the restaurant. It wasn't that they didn't have taste. It wasn't that they didn't have money. It's not about that with me. It's about, do you understand what you're here to do and why? And it's an art. I will go out to dinner with Jamarcus, George, and Josh any day of the week. I have to brag on my lit brothers. Not to say I don't like my other friends. I love my friends. I love my other friends. But we just get it. We get it, y'all. We just do. Now, my girl Candace, we have not done dinner together, but she gives me reservations. Now, I will go out to dinner with her. Because me and Candace done bumped. Listen, y'all, the Candace and our relationship, words can't describe it. But like, we have bumped into each other at restaurants, and I know that she's a restaurant girly. I know that she's an actual restaurant girly. She's not looking at that menu. She doesn't give a fuck about them prices. She's not sitting around nitpicking about every single taste of things. She knows what she's doing. She knows what it's about. That girl knows. Candace, let's make a reservation together. We need to go somewhere. That's a restaurant enthusiast right there. She will go. Of course, my husband. That's part of why me and my husband are together for 11 years. Restaurants are our food language. It's our food language. And it's not for everybody. It's not. I'm a theater girl. I'm a restaurant girl. You do not mess up me with the theater. I will go to a musical. I know a show. The way that I review, listen, I'm full focus. I'm full throttle in. Call me bougie. Call me what the fuck you want to call me. Just call me a man that has real taste. Maybe I'm just a man who has taste. It is, and listen, it's not for everybody. Okay? There are some people that just like, Ernest, I don't get what you're talking about. It's not for me. I don't care. And that's okay. Like, I'll give you an example. I am not a sports girl. Don't take me to a sports game. I am acting like a high school girl at a sports game. I'll be like, I want to get the nice seats. I want to get the snacks. I want to be in the box. I just want to take pictures of me at the damn game. I don't know what the hell is happening, okay? Put me in the box, baby. I'm there eating snacks. I am not a sports person. If you want to take me to a sports game, put me in a box seat, baby. I'm just not that girl. I'm not. See, I can know myself. I know there are some people that are sports fanatics. Let me just put it this way. If you're the type of person who gets season tickets, if you're the type of person who knows what seat to be at a game to really maximize the full experience, if you're the type of person that can tell me who the coach is and why their coach angles are not worth angles, there's a great episode of Abbott Elementary that just happened with the Phillies, and Greg takes Janine out to the game, and they're hanging out on this date, and she doesn't know what she's talking about, but he's fully glued in. That episode is a great episode, but it's the best way to describe how I'm with restaurants and how I'm in with theater shows. Theater and restaurants is something I grew up with. When I was younger, my mother, my stepfather at the time, when they wanted to take me out, they would, for my birthday, they would take me to nice restaurants. They wanted me to be familiar with these things. And so it was always a treat when I can go out to my birthday to have a real nice dinner and to put on a suit and to, just understand what I'm eating, to understand the difference between a salad fork and understand a soup spoon and all those things, the paring knife. Like, that was a thing for me. And we would always go, and for those who were in Houston, we would be in the Galleria area. Okay, so they were not playing jokes. We would go to like Vic and Anthony's. We would go to those types of restaurants, and then we would go to a show downtown, and we would go. Like, I remember I saw Dreamgirls, and I remember going to see the Color Purple musical. Like, these were the things we would do, but this was a way to grow my appreciation of the arts, understand how to have conversations about it. And here I am, 20 years later, still having an appreciation of the arts and restaurants. There are some people that did that. Were we bougie? Were we elite? No, it was just something that when we were younger, that was the thing. Like, my mother was like, I really want you to have a profound. And I did theater arts in high school. I did plays. And that was my profound love for the arts and for food. And so when I decided to be a food editor and go into cuisine, it was a love for that because that was my upbringing to that. And so there are people who have that same love for restaurants in a very particular way. George, Josh, Jamarcus, and myself, we would go any day. My husband, any day. Any day. It's just a thing. It's a thing. That was our love language. When we first started dating, we just went to restaurants. That was the one thing we could agree on. It took him some time to really appreciate the theater. He wasn't necessarily a theater goer. He was a movies man. Like, we would always go to the movies. And I don't mind the movies. I love cinema. Like, I love movies. We would always go to the movies. And he would like to go to see really good movies. Like, not like like box office mess. Like we would go see like Oscar films, and we would go to the Ritz, and we would go places like that to find like really good indie films. So he had a love for film. And so we would go there. And then eventually I was like, okay, I want to go to some musicals. I'm going to go to like, And so now he has a love for theater now. But restaurants was our love language. That's how we was able to understand it. And we would go through tasting menus, understand chefs and things. And that was our love. And so this anniversary was grand. I mean, we really had a time. Like for us, people were like, well, did you go to a movie? Did you go play? Baby, the restaurant was that experience. 3 hours at a restaurant, going through multiple courses, understanding the story, the origin, the flavor profiles, to be able to drink wine through and to compare the wines and have different cocktails. That was our experience. And then Saturday night, we went to, was it Saturday night? Oh my goodness. So Thursday, I'm sorry, let me back up. Friday night is when we went to Albee. Saturday night, we went to Vernick Fish. We came back to Philly and we went to Vernick Fish, and it was also spectacular. Look, Vernick Fish is always going to have a soft spot for me because of the fact that, number one, Vernick Food and Wine, I think it is. The original Vernick was one of our favorite restaurants we went to for an anniversary. Our first, like, as a couple, like, before we got married, we went to Vernick. Vernick is always, Greg Vernick is an incredible chef, one of my favorite chefs in the world. With Vernick, his original one, that was where we went for our anniversary. Vernick Coffee Bar is one of my favorite restaurants in Philadelphia. One of my favorite places to get lunch. It's one of my favorite lunch spots. And y'all know I love The Love. The Love is also one of my top favorite lunch places to get lunch. But if I can get a reservation at Vernick Coffee Bar at the Comcast Technology Center, take me for lunch. It's my favorite spot to go to. And if not, The Love is my favorite spot for lunch. Vernick Fish, Mr. Johnson, I love Vernick Fish. It's always a great time. Last night, right? I'm telling you, I recorded. Saturday night was nothing short than incredible. And yeah, I was impressed. Yeah, I would. Verdict is great because Verdict does really great. They're just good. Like they're a seafood restaurant at their core, but they also do a good job of being more than just seafood. They have the land and the sea. They do really well. They're the perfect restaurant to do a surf and turf and not feel like you're at some over the top seafood like steakhouse that do it, right? Like I know there's like Lock Bar. I like Lock Bar, right? Lock Bar is cool. But like Vernick Fish, they're so intentional about their seafood in a very unique way. Like where they get their seafood, how they prepare it, their influences. Like we had a whole full branzino. And the way they wanted to serve that branzino was in a very like Japanese or Korean way. They had lettuce out, and they wanted us to make like lettuce cups, and they had the kimchi, and they had the white rice, and they wanted us to reimagine how we ate that whole branzino. Now, if we was at an Italian restaurant, we would have had the whole branzino and probably would have had it with some pasta on the side or something, and it would have been sliced. But they served it a whole branzino with lettuce cups. And I haven't seen that since I went to Pearl and Mary, where they also did the branzino kind of in a way where it was a much smaller branzino, but it was like in a way to do it with lettuce cups and like the sauce. And it was like a Thai influence energy for that. But this branzino was done, I mean, it was a huge full-on branzino, and it was a great dish. And I definitely am still thinking about it. Still thinking about that. We also had like a Wagyu. Was it a Wagyu dish, or did I have the Wagyu? I think I had Wagyu at Doggone. But again, first world problems. We had a ribeye served medium there at Vernick Fish. And that ribeye was, oh God, it was so good. Like it was a 14 ounce, and we split it alongside the fullness of it. But it was such a great dinner. It was a romantic time. Lots of great wine, lots of great champagne. It was just beautiful. A perfect anniversary dinner across the board. Yeah, we did the damn thing. Next year is our 5-year wedding anniversary. Will be my 35th birthday. as well. I don't. We got to figure out how we're going to top ourselves, but I was deeply impressed. I was deeply impressed. I have no bad notes. DC was great. And listen, when I come back to DC, I got to go to Moon Rabbit. Moon Rabbit is next on my list. When I go back to DC, I got to go to Moon Rabbit. I have tried Moon Rabbit collaboration. I had a Moon Rabbit collaboration on at A Kitchen. That's the Ellen Yin restaurant, and Ellen Yin is great. But I didn't go to the original restaurant, and I need to. I need to go to Moon Rabbit. The next time I go to DC, I'm going to find another excuse to go to DC, because the DC restaurant scene is reminding me of the Philadelphia restaurant scene a couple of years ago when Philly was on a rise, because there are some big things happening in DC. So Albie, the chef, just won the James Beard for Outstanding Chef. The Michelin stars are coming to Philadelphia next month. We're going to find out which restaurants in Philadelphia have Michelin stars. We're going to find out. It's going to be something serious. We're going to find out what the Michelin stars are giving in Philly, because, baby, this is what you came for, okay? We're going to find out what's going on with the Michelin stars. We're going to find out, y'all. But speaking of Michelin stars, I do want to talk about one restaurant in particular. I'm not going to talk too much about it. I've not went inside yet. I don't know if I really want to go to it. And that is Kitchen and Cocktails. This restaurant owned by this attorney named Kevin Kelly, Black-owned restaurant. It has replaced the Del Frisco's Grill on Broad Street. So I knew about Kitchen and Cocktails in Dallas and in Houston. I knew about this owner because I'm from Houston, and I've been back to Houston a couple times over the years. I heard about this restaurant. This restaurant owner has been in controversy. This is the man who went viral for his critique about one of his restaurants where in Dallas, I think it took place in Dallas, either Dallas or Houston, but he got lambasted on social media. So at the restaurant, they were playing some type of twerk music. They had a DJ, and they played some dance music, and some of the women that were there decided, hey, they're having a good time, having this good dinner or brunch or whatever, and they want to twerk, they want to dance a little bit. And so he comes out, and he chastises these women for dancing. Like, he's like, talking about how this is a classy establishment. Like, basically it's dredging and respectability politics. Mind you, this is a Black-owned restaurant. The music that they played suggested the music to twerk, and this man is trying to act like they're a La Bourdin. I was very turned off by it. I remember a lot of people were just upset about this video. And I just want you all to know, Philly, that this is the owner. So if you don't really hear me promoting this restaurant or shouting it out, now you know. Because a lot of you all asked me where I was at this weekend. I was not invited to the media preview. I wasn't even in town, actually. I was in DC. And so, that was one thing. Also, their publicist isn't necessarily a favor of mine, over here. Which I'm not surprised about. But just everything about this restaurant. I don't know, y'all. I don't know. Some people say grand opening, grand closing. I won't go that far, but I do feel like it's more style over substance. To the people I know that reported back to me, said that they found the food to be all right. The food is not horrible, but the food is not like spectacular and memorable. They said the pricing was, a typical Broad Street restaurant pricing. They said the ambience of the place and the vibe of the place is that it wants to be a hot spot. They just feel like this is all and more the same. They think that this is pretty much what Miss Tootsie's was to Philly. That it's in the direction of Miss Tootsie's, that we've seen it before, and if people remember it, it's going to give Miss Tootsie energy. So do as you may with the information, but I'm not running to this restaurant. I will eventually arrive and get there. I imagine people will throw events and things. But I'm not necessarily chasing this restaurant per se, given the poor communication skills of their team and all that. So, just want to give you that food for thought on that restaurant. Kitchen and Cocktails. Google it. Look up, the owner and look up that Dallas restaurant. If you have not seen that viral video of him, check that out. But for me, I'm not saying I'm skipping it. I'm just saying I'm not running to it. And that's that on that. So, if you're listening to this episode on Monday, October 20th, the day this episode released, then you're in for a special treat. Tonight, okay, Monday night, for those who are listening to this show the day it's released, I will be making my debut in the new season of TV One's hit crime docuseries, Fatal Attraction. Yes, this is season 16, and I am going to be on episode 8, which has its premiere. This episode is called Deep Rooted Evil. So if you have a DVR, set your DVR. I am on that channel, TV One. If you just simply, look up Fatal Attraction, you might have the show on a channel that you don't even know you have. It's on TV One. The episode is episode 11 of season 16. So this is the newest episode that is dropping this week because Fatal Attraction comes on their Monday. It's like a part of their roundup. And so I will be on the show and we'll be discussing and unpacking this very wild love affair going deadly. For those in Philadelphia who follow crime stories, this is a true Philly crime story. This is covering the Ebony Pack case that was in Montgomery County. So this happened a couple years ago, actually. And Ebony Pack is a black woman who got caught up in a love affair with another man, with a black man, and it led to a situation that was a fatal attraction. So make sure that you all watch it. It'll be awesome. DVR it. I always DVR all my episodes on Fatal Attraction. And a lot of times when it's like the holidays, I'm hosting and I'm bringing all my friends over for different festivities. And we're like, what are we going to watch? I will replay episodes that I was on during Fatal Attraction. A lot of them want to watch it. Some of them don't on the TV. A lot of my friends are cord cutters. So this is an opportunity for them to watch the show. But if you do have a TV and you are already watching Fatal Attraction already, so some of you all tell me this, you will see me on this show. I will be on this special episode. This is season 16, episode 11, Deep Rooted Evil. You can check me out for the first time this season on Fatal Attraction on TV One. And the show comes on, I believe, like around 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So, be on the lookout, but I will be on there and I look forward for you all to let me know your thoughts. So I want to put that plug out there. Also, in other news, because a lot of people have been asking about this, I am writing for The Root. Yes, The Root recently, the news came out. They're black owned, as you all know. And I will be casually writing for them, casually. Like, this is not something that you're going to see me every single week on. But I know a lot of you all love my writing and want to see me, write a couple of pieces every blue moon or talk about things in a different way. And so, they reached out to me, the new team over there doing some great work. And, I said, sure, I'll pick my topics, things that I feel like I want to voice in on a big level, in a big way. And this week, I wrote about Stephen A. Smith, and we're going to talk more about Stephen A. Smith later on this show. But I said, look, I want to write about Black issues. I want to, write the way I want to write. And, I want to bring something to the culture in this way. And so, what other way to do it than The Root, which is now Black owned again. They're no longer with Gizmo Media. They've been acquired by a Delta woman, actually. And she's an incredible political consultant who's been doing some great work. She is on CNN, and she's been doing her thing. She's a former Obama advisor. Her name is Ashley Allison, two first names. So Ashley Allison is the owner of The Root now. It's her dream to bring it back to Black ownership. She's been getting a lot of coverage And since its founding in 2008, there was people who had a piece of ownership. Henry Louis Gates Jr. and Donald E. Graham had first owned it when they launched it. But now it's fully Black owned. And now they're calling for voices like mine to be a part of, sharing that story. So shout out to them. And I knew you all would be in for a treat and be surprised. It was part of my birthday surprise, something I wanted to do. And I wanted to do it in a very meaningful and intentional way. So when given opportunity, I said, sure, why not? And then also, we will be talking about this week's episode of On the Record with Ernest Owens on 96.1 FM, 900 AM, Progressive Black Talk Media, WRD Radio. So I had Dr. Ayla Stanford in person, live at the studio. If you have not heard the episode yet, the link is in the bio. You can listen to all of my episodes on my website on ernestowens.com, where you can, of course, listen to Ernestly Speaking episodes, and you can also listen to all of my On the Record with Ernest Owens episodes as well on those playlists on my website, and also the link in my bio on my social media. We're going to talk a lot more about that interview later on, but I want to say to all of you all who were super enthusiastic, it has been the talk of the town, and it was everything that I wanted the interview to be. Dr. Stanford, who's running for Congress, of course, gave me material. I mean, she came ready, and there was some interesting things she said. There's some thoughts I have, and we're going to talk more about it later on in my local politics section. But just wanted to say to all of you all who really showed up, you all showed up. You all want that interview. I can tell the way that you all have been listening and talking about it. I greatly appreciate it. So let's get into hot topics. This weekend, y'all, was a No Kings protest. And Donald Trump the White House decided to make social media content with both the president, Donald Trump, and Vice President J.D. Vance with crowns on. I mean, I've been trying to ask people, these protests, I got some thoughts. But before I get into these thoughts, Trump has been having some interesting roadblocks. A judge earlier this week had made some major blocks in some of his government shutdown layoffs that was taking place. That has been something that is not covered enough in local media, the give and take between Trump when it comes to law enforcement, when it comes to these policies. Like one moment he's, being held accountable. The next moment there's he makes his decree, and then we don't really get enough media coverage on when there is a clapback from the judges, either reducing his power or putting it in check, right? The checks and balances, all right? They talk about when Trump makes a swing, but we don't hear as much energy of when he gets a setback. There are some media outlets who do cover it, but we don't get the big emphasis in the way in which we talk about when Trump does the big thing, right? Whatever that thing is concerning. But when it gets scaled down or when there is a clapback from the courts, we don't hear about that as much. And so I'm always big on any time we talk about the government shutdown or anything that he do or any implementation, I do like to follow up when the information is solid that there is some pushback. Like the courts are doing their thing. Are they always perfect? Are they doing enough? Are the Supreme Court scaring us? Yes, right? And we'll get to the Supreme Court and this attack on the voting rights. But did want to emphasize that the judge did block some of those layoffs. It is true, John Bolton, another person that has been an adversary to Trump, is facing retribution. So John Bolton is an attorney. He's an attorney and the former United States ambassador to United Nations. This case has a lot. He has been indicted. He has pleaded not guilty after charges, of mishandling classified information. And there is a political context for John Bolton's indictment, and it takes the entire proceedings. The case looks very serious. There's a lot here. There appears to be that the case appears to be more substantial, and substantive, one could argue, than the ones against previous other foes, including, the Letitia, Tish, there's a lot of other people, that Letitia James, there's a lot of other folks that have had some concerns. This one does look more substantial. However, people are saying whether Bolton mishandled classified information may be beside the point. And so there is concerns. According to a legal expert, Andrew Warren, who is a senior counsel at Democracy Defenders Action, and John McKay, who also weighed in on this, who is a former U.S. attorney for the Western District of Washington, they're saying that Trump has blatantly and publicly seized control of the Justice Department for his political and personal agendas. They're saying that, we are adrift on uncharted waters, wisely avoided by previous presidents. Like, this is something that we have not seen at this type of magnitude in labor. There's really no independence of the Justice Department at this point, or the Department of Justice, right? We don't really think there's independence here. And they're not saying, they don't believe this, right? So as of right now, one of those individuals, the Department of Justice, was suspended as a state attorney in Florida by Governor Ron DeSantis. Another one was dismissed as a U.S. attorney by the George W. Bush administration. And many have described their removals as blatantly political acts. Now, the indictment on Thursday of John Bolton, this comes right after former FBI Director James Comey and Attorney General Letitia James, also known as Tish James, shows this dangerous pattern, right? And we know Bolton was an outspoken critic of President Donald Trump. He was his national security advisor. But they've been having a feud ever since he left in 2019. And now, here we go again. There is no legal repercussions for this politicization of the justice system. We are seeing once again that his attorney general, his current one, Pam Bondi, continues to prosecute three of his political enemies, Comey, James. There's also Senator Adam Schiff, who was a Democrat in California, Eric Siebert, who is a career prosecutor that Trump nominated for U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, had resigned after pressure from the White House to bring charges against James and Comey. People are leaving. Instead, he put in Lindsay Halligan, which is one of his former personal attorneys, who has, by the way, no prosecutor experience, to make sure that those charges were brought against James and Comey. So this is a lot. And some people are saying that Bolton's indictment is not the same prosecutorial theater as previously Comey and James. Halligan has personally presumed and signed the letter of the two indictments, which is highly unusual for a U.S. attorney to do without other prosecutors supporting this. So a lot of this is light on facts. They said that, experts have said that Comey, according to MSNBC, that Comey's contains slightly nothing more than a statutory language, and that James has only slightly more information. Like, these indictments are very light. There's a lot of style, no substance is what they're saying. They're saying there's not that much meat and bones here. There's a lot of concerns here. And it's like, very telling. However, Bolton's prosecution is a little different because it's being handled by the acting U.S. Attorney in Maryland, Kelly Hayes. She's been in there 12 years, rising through the official office's ranks. There's some meat here, okay? Halligan, she's not like Halligan. She joined on the indictment by prosecutors from the DOJ's National Security Division. It is an 18-count indictment against Bolton. They're accusing him of improperly transmitting and retaining classified information. And they say it includes detailed factual allegations typical of a federal charging document. They are saying that he allegedly shared more than thousands of pages of information about his daily activities as the National Security Advisor with two members of his family between April 2018 and August 2025. There are like diary-like entries, okay, that was sent during this period form the basis of 8 counts. That's what they're saying. They're retaining 10 counts of this 18-count Indictment alleged that he kept classified information, including printed versions of the diary entries in his Maryland home that were recovered during the August 22nd search. There's a lot here. But people are saying that whether he actually mishandled these classified documents are beside the point. They said, despite the fact that there is a stark contrast between the Comey and James indictments, the political context of the prosecution taints the entire case. Legal experts are saying that pretty much this looks like another retaliatory attempt on Trump's adversaries from the Trump administration and those affiliated with it. So there's a lot of talking here. There's a lot of concerns. Trump is doing what he's doing best. And in plain opposite, he has commuted the sentencing of formerly convicted, disgraced former Congressman George Santos, who was a Republican and was a Trumper, someone who did support him on January 6th. Well, that man's a free man. And now Santos is even considering, and we've talked about George Santos. He is the openly gay Republican congressman who has a history of lying out of his teeth. He was sentenced to time in prison. People thought good riddance. He was going to be gone for a little bit of time. Well, the man has been free. He spent less than a year behind bars, and now he is out back in the public. He's been released under the Trump administration. He might run for Congress again, he says. Interesting. But he's free. Trump is letting free of all of his, supporters and sycophants. So that's happening. Trump's also not letting his foot go off the fact that his anti-immigration policies, some people and experts are saying, are impacting the food supply in America. We all know that immigrants and migrant workers that are out there in the fields to help us with our farming agriculture, many of which of those individuals, some people argue are undocumented. Some are being taken by ICE, whether they have citizenship or visa or not. But the current policies he have right now has impacted food supply. Farmers are not yielding as much of a harvest and getting as much produce and vegetables. It is impacting the production of food in this country, which is causing an issue with shortages in our world food supply. The lack of farmers out there getting our produce and getting the things we need to go into stores, when that food is not gotten or received, right? When that food is not received, you know what happens to it, y'all? It gets spoiled. I used to be the president of Future Farmers America in Houston in my high school's chapter. I did dairy cow judging, as you all know, is a fun fact. And I also did a lot of work within agriculture, understanding food supply. Yeah, I'm a man of many hats. Again, educated. Knowing what I need to know. Some people say you're a smart aleck. Some people say it's elitist. But, here we are. Let me tell you what I know about farms and about farming. When you don't have a lot of workers to be able to harvest and to get the crops going, okay? I'm talking the harvest stage, okay? The corn's been grown, the vegetables, the tomatoes, everything's been grown. You need to get bodies out there picking that produce ASAP. Because the moment they pick it, they got to make sure it's ready to go out to stores and farmsteads and places where you pick your produce. If you don't have enough workers to get all of those yields, okay, because that's work, y'all. I don't think people understand farming. When you don't have enough people to pick that stuff up, you know what happens to it? It rots. It spoils. And that is money in the dumpster, literally. You know how they say, do money grow on trees? Well, in farming, it do actually. It do. Every single time you let, a bushel or a stack or something, potatoes, when you let them rot, that is money that's being rot. You've let the money go to waste. Wasting food in the farm world means wasting money. All that labor it took to plant those seeds to harvest, to actually build that food up from the ground. When you don't have people out there picking at those vegetables, getting that produce, getting those apples, getting that fruit, when you don't have enough people out there to do that, that food rots, which means that the farmers lose money, and that means that we, the people, do not have enough supply of food to access to that produce. So with all of these farmers, undocumented, whatever you want to call them, that are out of a job and is being put in detention centers, guess what? These farmers and these owners of these fields, they're not hiring. Who are they hiring? Does it look like anybody want to work out here? Not only to say, I'm not to say, to imply, and I want to be very careful, and I want to be very mindful what I'm saying, because some of you all may make your own assumptions. Let me clarify this for the record. Here's the issue, and what I'm hearing, because I got friends that own farms out there in Texas. I know some people out there. You know, I can see that. That's what happens when you have a diversified network of people. You can call the phone, you can pick up some things, you know, and let me make some phone calls, okay? So here's some of the things that I've heard and what I know. Well, this was what was said to my background. I cannot tell you the farmer or what farm or what location of farms, but let me tell you what I've heard. It's not an issue so much about hiring undocumented workers or documented workers. What I'm hearing in southern parts of this country is that the documented workers, those who are citizens that are working, are afraid to show up to work because they're afraid to be racially profiled. It's not even about whether or not, because they're saying that ICE is detaining people who have visas, who have permits, who have things, that they're getting caught up. Now, some of them are getting released, but they're now afraid to go back to those farms that they were working at. So they're working in other places. They're working at certain restaurants. They're going into other service places because they don't want to risk that concern. So now it's issues where ICE is showing up to people's farms, showing up to people's places of business and targeting these individuals. And some of them have visas. Some of them have their citizenship. And even they are being detained or going through the emotional stress. Some people are being held for 2 days and being released later on. But just the mental stress of not having a family member going through that. These people are like, look, I don't go through that shit. And then now word on the block is that other farms and orchards and other places where people are getting detained, that is sending echoes across the entire, agricultural system. So workplaces where others may have not even had people show up, they're like, you know what, we could be next. We don't want to risk it. We want to quit. People are just not showing up. Even people who are, again, documented. This is not just people who are undocumented, because the logic that you'll hear from the Trump administration and others is, oh, well, undocumented people or people coming to the country, quote unquote, illegally. No, this ICE is not targeting people who are coming in this country undocumented. We have seen several videos of them in Chicago, National Guard, not just ICE, but National Guard and others that are showing up and basically going after U.S. citizens. They're coming after their own citizens. And no one deserves to be, accosted in this way. Let's be very clear. Human rights are human rights. And people, whether they're documented or not documented in this country, we should be setting a better example of how humane we are, right? That's not the problem. However, what we're seeing in these raids is it could be anybody. And so because of that, people are being impacted and people are not showing up to work. And that is impacting our crops because somebody got to pick up that food and it's not enough people that are willing to go out there. And that's not just only on the field part, but even immigration with the tariffs, even importing food. Okay. So we're talking about American soil and American crops, but we haven't even gotten into the madness going on with the importing of vegetables and certain produce and fruits. These tariffs got people shook. And so there's a lot going on in the Trump administration. These are the things, we're looking at conversations about these AI clips. The president has done an AI clip where it shows him dropping feces in a jet. It's wild. I don't know what to say. Trump is trumping. Um, he's beefing with someone, a certain nation. He has calls a president a drug dealer in his latest beef right now. He has a beef right now with the Colombian president. He accuses the Colombian president of being a, quote, illegal drug dealer, and announced that he is going to be slashing U.S. funding to the country in a social media tirade where he misspelled Colombia's name, the country of Colombia, multiple times. He's talking about Gustavo Petro, who is of Mexico, calls him illegal drug dealer, illegal drug leader, strongly encouraging the massive production of drugs in big and small fields all over Colombia. I mean, this is intense. The president has been really escalating a lot of things going on. There's been speculation about him. We've talked about this a little bit, where there's been some strikes happening. And he's claiming that he is trying to stop narco trafficking en route, is what he said. A drug carrying submarine. A situation has involved people from Ecuador and Colombia. 4 people on those boards, 2 were killed. He is sending others on that boat, the other remaining 2 that were alive, to Ecuador and Colombia, which is their countries of origin. There's been a lot going on. He's claiming that he's trying to stop drug smuggling vessels traveling from Venezuela. I mean, this is intense. Trump was compared to Hitler by the Colombian president during a speech that he gave during the United Nations. And the United States Department moved to cancel Petro's visa. He had urged Americans to disobey Trump. So they've been beefing for a minute. This comparison to Adolf Hitler is intense, but it just reflects this global problem that Trump is having right now internationally. A lot going on right there. So free press, colleges, and others are fighting back against his policies. I mean, I guess one can argue that there is some optimism be had. A lot of media publications have backed off from supporting the Pentagon. The Pentagon had some ridiculous requests for the free press that was in their offices to do. They've pushed back against that. This is Pete Hegseth, who is the Secretary of Defense leader. He tried to create this policy with the free press regarding the Pentagon, and several of media outlets have basically said they're not going to abide by these Pentagon rules. And so, yeah, it's a lot going on. There is a drama that is on called, there's a gay Marine drama called Boots. And a lot of people are upset. The Pentagon issued a statement about the streamer's leadership and programming. So the Pentagon called it woke garbage. So there is a new show on Netflix called Boots, which basically recounts the true story of a gay Marine cadet's boot camp experience in 1990. And this is during the Don't Ask, Don't Tell era, a little bit before that, actually. Well, they felt some type of way about it because of the fact that it's a pro-LGBTQ series. But they are calling it woke garbage, is how they're describing it. And so there has been some interesting cultural clapbacking that's happening. The Pentagon is in the news for nothing that really deals with foreign affairs. It's a lot going on there. There has been other reporters that have resigned after their publication decided to sign the Pentagon rules. The Epoch Times reporter resigned. His name is Andrew Thornbrook, which also cited a recent editorial directive to refer to Antifa as a far left ideological movement as a terrorist organization. And apparently that national security reporter from the right-wing publication Epoch Times has resigned after the publication signed on to rules restricting the news gathering within the Pentagon. It's a lot happening over there, but people are not doing it. Now, the big one is that Penn did not sign that compact. And a lot of people are talking about that compact. You're wondering, what is the compact? What is this? So Trump had a compact for academic excellence in higher education. This is an agreement that would have offered federal funding advantages to universities in exchange for administrative control by the federal government, including limitations on international student enrollment and influence over curriculum. Penn did not sign it. People thought that Penn might cower to it, but a lot of other schools have not signed it as well. A lot of people were urging them not to do it, and Penn pushed back. So people are pushing back against the Trump administration and their impedance on it because they're withholding funding as a way to make these individuals abide by government control in their colleges. It is very concerning and problematic, but here we are. Here we are. And people are rightfully so, wondering what's happening. But I think at this point, Penn has, agreed to certain things with the White House, but the more and more the White House wants, the more and more the White House impedes, right? So, yeah, it's a problem. So the Supreme Court. There is speculation the Supreme Court is committed to eviscerating what remains to be the Voting Rights Act, which will give a lot of electoral plans to the Republicans. Pretty much, the Republican-appointed justices plan to end federal protections for minority representation, and they seem to do so during the Wednesday arguments they had early this week in Calais versus Louisiana. Basically, southern states can quickly gerrymander black and brown communities into oblivion. The maps will hand white voters almost total control of these state congressional maps, which will be producing a net gain of 15 to 19 GOP seats in Congress. The demise of the Voter Rights Act could put the House out of reach for Democrats outside of a rare blue wave election. So this is serious. This is serious. People are trying to figure out if the Democrats could keep the House, but with this Supreme Court decision, it's going to make it harder for them potentially. We don't know yet the decision. We don't have the final ruling, but it's not looking good right now. So take that in consideration. Take in consideration. This is why elections matter. This is why elections matter. So many of you all were, talking about why did my vote matter and making excuses and having these opinions and yeah. And look where we are right now. Look at the current state of our politics. Stay woke. That's all I can say. Never again. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear anything about a Green Party. I don't want to hear about Joe Stein. I don't want to hear about this non-committed shit. I don't want to hear about any of it. So let's get into the Democrats. There's been some interesting stuff happening here. So the No Kings protest took place across the country. There was large crowds, lots of costumes, all of that. Yeah. But here's my problem. Where were the demands? Black people are not actually getting themselves involved with the No Kings protest. I mean, there were black people there, but black women and those who are in the organizing community have been critical of the No Kings protest because what are the demands? Any protest without demands is performative. I repeat, any protest without demands are performative. What are the call to action? Like, this is such white liberal poppycock. Like, this is such white liberal nonsense. Like, people just love to go out. Like, they just do it for sport. Like, when black people, when LGBTQ, so when marginalized communities come together to protest, we have a list of demands. We're not interested in making statements. Because your First Amendment right is the right to protest, yes. But you have a reason, right? I mean, costumes aside, I'm not trying to tell people how to protest, but I mean, I'm not telling people maybe the costumes are just extra. I mean, if that's what you want to wear, knock yourself out. But to just simply protest with actually no actual call to action. I don't know. I just feel like it's a waste of time. I saw journalists, interviewing people in the streets. And some of the people I interviewed, a lot of them were just like, we don't want any kings in America. Okay, cool. What's the plan, y'all? What's the plan to not have any kings in America? Like, what are we calling on? What are we calling on Congress to do? What are we calling on legislators to do? What are we calling on ourselves to do? Because if we want to compare protests, right? That insurrection on January 6th, that protest, right? That became something unlawful and problematic. They had demands. We could disagree about the nature and the merit of those demands, but they had demands when they stormed the Capitol. Their demands were loud. They wanted Trump back in office. They wanted to hang Mike Pence, the former vice president. They were loud about their demands. And they actually took a course of action, a direct action, by going to the Capitol, looking for anybody that was in the way of them wanting to see their president or their arguable king get an unlawful placement as in the U.S. presidency in the White House. It failed, but they had a very clear list of demands. I don't know what the demands were at the No Kings protest. Don't know what the demands were. I don't know what the focus was. Okay, you don't want this country to have kings. Got it. And I got to say this again, but, the executive director of Committee of 70, Lauren Cristella, or whatnot, Lauren Cristella, she, decided to clap back at me on social media a couple of months ago when they had the first No Kings rally. And I was critical then, as I am critical now. And I said, at that time that these protests were performative. And she said to me, trying to, in many ways, frame me, and I felt like, in my opinion, as being a negative Debbie Downer and being very cynical and not looking at other aspects of the situation, and said that people can do both, as if she needed to educate me on what folks can do during a protest, as if I'm not aware that people can walk and chew gum at the same time. I don't know. I found it a little condescending, but I did clap back and respond back because I didn't understand why she felt the need to chastise me on my legitimate critique about this protest. But when you're out here writing letters on your Instagram page on behalf of the Committee 70 to try to have discourse and discuss Charlie Kirk and political violence, you want to talk about performative. How performative it was to jump out and have to speak on Charlie Kirk as if, where was these statements for other individuals who, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. Maybe they just felt like they need to have a moment in the headlines, And here's the thing, the Committee of 70, when they stay on brand and they stay on message and they focus on, as much as possible, being nonpartisan, because a lot of what they've been doing has had this weird slant towards trying to, pander to moderates and pander to the right. And they act like they're not doing that, but they're in this pursuit to try to make everything very, both sidesism. They have steered in a way that shows a double standard. And I could go down the list on how it showed up, but that Charlie Kirk statement that they made just really grinded my gears, not because of how I feel personally about Charlie Kirk, but because where is these statements in these regards any other time we see political violence? They've never put out a statement against political violence any other time. And they could have condemned it in different ways, but they did not. They chose to use the Charlie Kirk argument because it's supposed to pander in this liberal way to show that we are holding everyone accountable. Listen, white liberals, hear me very loud and clear. Your fellow white conservatives and mega perp people, they don't give a fuck about anything being fair and balanced. You will never make sense to a mad person, okay? You will never be able to make them trust you. They will never trust you. They don't like you. They want you dead. They don't want to see anyone in power that have a different viewpoint as them. They're playing the game that many people wish Democrats would take a harder stance on because we're technically on the right side of history. But for whatever reason, you're going to try to both sides yourself to death. White people play these games. I'm going to be dead ass with you. White people have the luxury and the privilege to try to have friends on the other side. All of you that run around and say that you have friends that are Trump supporters, I don't have any friends that are Trump supporters. And if I do, listen, they're hiding it from me and they're lying to me. They're not telling me the truth. But you all that have this type of romanticism of being friends with neo-Nazis, because let's call them what they are at this point. Any person that is okay with supporting this administration as they unlawfully harass and take over cities that are predominantly black and brown and target them and use racist rhetoric and insults and epithets. Anybody that is okay with that type of leadership and that type of debauchery are people that are okay with white supremacy. And if you're okay with white supremacy, what does that make you? Oh, don't be shy now. Speak up. Speak up as if I'm talking about anti-Semitism, because y'all know how to use that term. Come on. We know what anti-Semitism is, right? If you're cool with neo-Nazi, you would be cool with what? Anti-Semitism, right? But if you're also cool with white supremacy, what would you also be cool with, right? Speak up. Come on. Now. Come on, louder. White supremacy supporters are white supremacists. That's what they are. So, let's call a thing a thing. We know that the Trump administration has been pretty much executing a white supremacist agenda. If any of your friends decide to vote for this man again, which they did, they're okay with that, which makes them white supremacists. Don't tell me I'm too harsh, because I didn't see y'all call people all kind of names without having any real shred of evidence. But we just been throwing words around in other groups. You know, how many times y'all have called Mandani an anti-Semite, have tried to call him a Jew-hating, politician that is scary, right? I saw all the labels you gave him because he was Arab, because y'all were racist, because that man may have a disagreement on what Israel's doing. But Mandani, by all means, is not an anti-Semite. He does not want Jews to be killed. He does not hate Jewish people. Like, stop with the rhetoric. But you all said that based on certain statements that you decide to interpret. And I'm just saying to myself, how many times are you going to be around your Trump supporting friends and not find them to be white supremacists? I just want to address this, because I'm watching this debate, right, with Cuomo and Mandani and that other guy who's not going to win, right? And I'm sitting here and I'm just like, what are we arguing about right now? What are we debating about at this point? And why are you all so sensitive about, calling these people what they are? Does it make you uncomfortable that you're aligning yourself with people like that? You say it's divisive, but what they're doing is divisive. I mean, what they're doing is divisive. Why is it? What? Come on. So the Republican candidate that's running for NYC mayor is Curtis Sliwa. He does not want to drop out. He is big on law enforcement. He appears to support Trump. What are we talking about right now? What are we talking about? So the No Kings protest, great crowds, beautiful gowns. Oh, style and no substance. I am bored with it. I am bored. I am bored with it. I just, it's counterproductive. Um, it's a waste of resources, human bodies, right? Okay, there's the crowds. Yay. Yay. But I wonder, are these the same crowds that had a lot of them that were uncommitted to supporting, Harris and voting in the 2024 election? Were these the same crowds? Like, I think there are some people that are chaos agents. They love to live in the protest of it all. Some people, not everybody. But there are some people that want a revolution on the far left side that's just not going to happen, because none of these people are about their lives. White liberals and white progressives, they'll sit up, they'll talk a good game, but then they look in the mirror and they realize that they're white, and they realize that they're privileged, and they realize, oh, wait a minute, I'm going to be okay regardless of who's in office. And so we're seeing this. And unless their spouse or their adopted child or their, best friend is of color, then they won't give a damn as much. Let's just be real. Like, I've seen this. I've seen it, right? White liberals will invest so much money, and they'll donate, they'll cut a check. And listen, cutting a check and donating is not a bad thing. Give you money. But when it comes to the on the ground activism, they like to be in the unknown. They like to play both sides. They like to say, well, I went to the No Kings protest because I don't want our country to have kings. But that's not to say that, there doesn't have to be Republican leaders. We should consider both sides. It's just like, oh God, I'm not here for it. I'm not impressed about this performance of civility with people who are uncivil. Especially when I see these same white liberals chastise and separate themselves from black progressives that they consider radical. They isolate themselves from people like myself, okay, who will name out white supremacy, will call out the racism within the Democratic Party and within the liberal spaces. They will isolate me, try to, gatekeep me away from certain spaces to talk my truth. They will have more grace and space, Governor Shapiro is like that, to white supremacists and white nationalists like Charlie Kirk. They will have more grace and more tolerance of people that carry those views than will actually of black people like myself, who have radical progressive views that are more pragmatic and more common sense than they do. You know why? Because we do not drink the white savior Kool-Aid that they put out, that we don't sit up and we don't bow to them. Ironic of them to do a No Kings protest and support that, but actually want black people to be at their feet and treat them like the kings that they so desperately want to be. It's quite interesting to me that in this conversation around tyranny and dictatorship, is it no kings or no Republican kings? Is it no kings or no, black kings? Like, what kings are we talking about here? Because I find it quite interesting that so many white liberals want the worship. They want the worship. They want the praise. They want, even in the times in which their respective community has been largely responsible for why Trump got reelected, that it was a majority of white voters. Everybody want to talk about this increase in black voters. I keep telling you all that if the white vote had changed by 10%, hell, even 5%, we wouldn't be here. Like, there is a codependency that black voters nearly have to vote 100% Democrat, or that everybody else have to be perfect voters in order to accept the absurdity and the double standards of white voters who are still on the fence and undecided on between whether or not to vote for a black woman for president or a neo-Nazi. I don't know where we are in this country where we're still not getting it. We're still not getting it. I am at a point where I'm really about informing and finding fellowship and solidarity with my community. I am no longer invested in the business of re-educating, double educating, double speaking, and repeating myself in repetition to white liberals who just want to look good that they went to the lesson. Will they learn the lesson? I don't know. But it's showing based on their actions that they as a collective, because I don't want to hear the individual. White people who get it, thank you, you're welcome, yay, here's your invisible gold star, here's your thumbs up, here's that heart emoji that you want. I'm not giving you the black fist pump, but just, yeah, like, thank you, yay for you, whoever you are. I don't need you to come in my DMs and tell me all the things that you do for black people or how you're bucking against Trump. You should be doing that, actually. And that's part of the problem, is that at this point in the game, you're not fighting Trump for my black ass. You should be fighting Trump for your white ass, because you're not benefiting from this regime either, to be honest. Some of you all are losing your fancy federal jobs that you got. Okay? And there are some black people, a lot of black women who were educated and lost some of those jobs, right? They're losing some of these jobs too. But white people are losing these jobs the most. These Ivy League educated, elite institutions, you all have had these top tier jobs. Jobs that a lot of black people could not get. Damn sure white black men couldn't get. You're losing these jobs. A lot of these cuts are impacting you. And look, could you find other jobs? Yes. But I know you don't like the inconvenience of this. I know it's a pain in the ass. But remember who took these jobs from you. And we go talk to Bubba and Mama over there in Appalachia that is somewhere asking you, that they fuck up with their vote. Let them know that when you're getting furloughed or you don't get the job, that you can't even give them any money. Because you ain't got the checks coming in right now. And so a lot of you all don't realize, and I said this to Tommy Lauren when I was doing an interview with Tommy Lauren a couple of months ago about these government shutdowns in the beginning of the year. I said to Tommy Lauren, I said, these federal cuts is impacting all types of people. Y'all want to sit up and act like it's DEI hires. Girl, bye. And I had to shut her down on that, because what people don't understand is we talk about poverty and white folks and that stuff. Listen, them welfare lines ain't just black welfare lines. See, the white savior complex of white liberals think that only black people in the welfare lines. Y'all better stop this lie. Yes, we get social services. Yes, we do. Absolutely. Everybody do. But a lot of that rural America, a lot of that America that y'all keep talking about is ignored, they're the ones getting that government assistance. And let me tell you about Marjorie Taylor Greene, okay? Marjorie Taylor Greene, look, she got her problems, clearly. But she knows what's going on in her district. She know the white people that's getting impacted. She know the mamas and them little JDs out there, the ones, that are not going to go to college and get full rides. She knows that Obamacare, they don't know that it's Obamacare. See, depending on who you talk to, if you say Obamacare, they say no. You say Affordable Health Care Act, which is the same goddamn thing, they go, hell yeah. But they hate Obamacare. And so there's a lot of these problems that are taking place that we're seeing that it is a problem. Is a problem. There's a double standard. And I'm going through the motions. Because it is frustrating. It is frustrating. These stereotypes that we have. These federal job cuts is impacting everybody. Everybody. And a lot of folks I know in DC, white folks that I went to college with that's getting this, some of them give money back to their families, just like black families do. We always call it the black tax in certain families, where the black tax is that if you're black and you're educated and you get a good job and you got family members, you are not just responsible for your household, but you put money into other households connected to you. There are a lot of white people that do the same, y'all. They don't talk about it as much. Some of them don't do it as much, but there are a lot of white folks that give money back to their folks in Arkansas and other places. With these federal cuts the way it is, they don't got money to give back to them. And meanwhile, the difference between their families and my family and other black families, that we all was on the same page about who we were supporting for president. Yeah, a couple of roughnecks that said some dumb shit at the barbershop. Most of those people that said that shit wasn't registered to vote. But they don't want to talk about that. Nobody Nobody wants to have an intelligent conversation about what actually happened. I'm not saying that there were not people that did go and vote for Trump this time than the last time. Okay, yes. But the numbers to which we're acting like compared to white people are not the same. Okay? Again, we overperform at the polls as black voters. Even when we do have a couple of people that step out of line, it does not compare to the overwhelming majority of black voters who show up to the polls. Okay? Over 90%. So stop. So stop entertaining these stupid conversations about increases. No. The white vote that pivoted and shifted in favor of Trump over Biden this time around are the real people responsible for what happened. This is a numbers game. The black population in this country is smaller than anything compared to their white counterparts. The Latino voting population is much larger than the black voting population, okay? And when you combine the numbers, white voters supersede that by the millions. So let's be realistic about who needs to change their voting stances. We could say more black voters need to go to the polls. Yeah. But why do we not talk enough about white people, white women voters? And if you're going to do a No Kings protest, have the demands be focused on your own people. Let the protest come in the house. Are the No Kings amongst us white people in your own spaces? So there's food for thought. They're saying Fetterman might have some challengers in 2028. I'm not shocked. There's a lot of people that are potentially interested in going after Fetterman for governor. I've heard that Connor Lamb might be considering a run. They're saying Congressman Brendan Boyle might actually run for that Senate seat. This is in 2028, y'all, so this is no time soon. This is going to be the big presidential year. Fetterman is up for re-election in 2028. You remember those seats are 6-year terms for Senate. So you got Brendan Boyle, you got who's a congressperson, you got Connor Lamb, who used to be a congressman. Those are some of the ones that are talking about going against Fetterman. It's still up in the air what's going to happen, but 2028 is going to be interesting for Pennsylvania because you're going to have Fetterman being challenged. You might have Josh Shapiro running for president. It's already shaping up already. So let's see where we go with that. Back to that New York City debate. So I watched a 2-hour Mondani versus Siwa, whoever that guy, that Republican candidate, and Cuomo. Mondani is taking this. Mondani's going to win. It's a wrap. And Cuomo was weaker than ever. I mean, just an embarrassing piece of television. I mean, a debate where even if you did not like Mondani personally, which I favor him. I mean, he's a Libra like I am. I do have my disagreements with Mondani. For example, his lack of support for Kamala Harris during the primaries was quite cringy. He was with the uncommitted movement. He did vote for Harris during the presidential, but a lot of that shit really is a turnoff for me. But nonetheless, she's endorsed him. He is the Democratic nominee. He wants the job. He looked good on TV earlier this week during a debate. That's where we're at. Cuomo, I mean, there's speculation that Cuomo might be under an investigation again. He might deal with stuff in Congress. Cuomo just cannot beat the dark cloud that is his race. And I think, there's a lot to consider. That I'm taking a moment with to unpack. And I think we all need to reevaluate some of our own stances on this. So I want to put that in your purview. So yeah. That's where we're at. I really do think I do have my concerns about the way that people have been talking about the race. But Mondani's going to win. He's going to take it. This is his race. He's going to win. When he won the primary, it was clear. It's clear as day to me now. This is the man who's going to win. And that's it. So moving on to media changes in our media world. There's a lot going on. I want to I'm trying to figure out where to go because there's so much content here and so much to talk about. So I'll go with Bari Weiss first. She's getting pushback. There was this fear initially. She had a deadline for employees to tell her what they were doing, kind of in the same vein of what Elon Musk wanted to do, where he wanted employees to do it. The Writers Guild, which I'm a proud member of, the Writers Guild East, the union, basically said, no, you don't got to do that. You don't need to tell her anything. Let's see what happens. And there were no consequences for employees after her little deadline to tell her anything. That just slid them on by. There's a lot of concerns about her reporting already. There's a lot of concerns in that newsroom, and there will continue to be. CBS, in many ways, their national leadership capitulated by making her the editor-in-chief of their news section. There's going to be a lot of concerns, and the legacy and the respect of the CBS brand on the national front, they're going to have to do a lot of repair there. Other conversations happening. I don't know if you heard this in the news, but Vibe and Rolling Stone magazine are joining forces. There is a lot of people that have a lot of mixed thoughts there. People are questioning that partnership. So pretty much there are people that are feeling as though that there's going to be an erasure of Black identity and inadequate supports for journalists there. There's questions about that partnership between Rolling Stone and Vibe. So as a part of that transition, I mean, a lot of people were like, wait, I didn't even know Vibe still existed. Vibe magazine was one of the most vibrant, get it, Black-owned magazine publications and magazines that covered hip-hop for the earlier part of the late 90s, of really the 21st century, the early 20th century, like in the beginning, the early 2000s, okay? Vibe magazine was like a big damn deal. That was one of the most respected hip hop magazines that we had. A lot of great reporters and writers came through there. And then of course there was a lot of changes. The editor-in-chief left. And I remember there was like the Vibe Awards at one point in time. They were making money. That was when print magazine was like that was like the last of the end of the golden era of print news magazines and publications. But the early 2000s, oh my goodness, Vibe magazine, to be on the cover of Vibe magazine was a big deal. Well, they went into digital, where they began to be a digital platform, and they stopped printing out print editions. And now they're with Rolling Stone. And so part of that, there was some major layoffs that happened for some of those writers that were at Vibe. But some people are concerned that this is not necessarily a good merger, that some people are going to, they're going to see fewer meaningful hip hop coverage. We'll have to wait and see. I do know the editor-in-chief of Rolling Stone magazine currently. His name is Sean. I have faith that he's going to do right by Vibe. I'm optimistic. I want to see where it's going to go, like everyone else. But, anytime a merger and a partnership happens, there's always going to be some level of criticism. I do have to announce this. Amy Robach and TJ Holmes, you remember them, the ones that was on Good Morning America, that little love affair scandal. They were both cheating on their spouses. Their spouses ended up going together, and then they got together. Well, they've announced after 3 years of that shit, they are now engaged. I'm kind of don't give a fuck. But you all asked about it. They're engaged. What do I think about this? Well, at least we know it's real. But what a sham. And what a shame. Other news. Sora. Remember that AI technology, Sora 2, the one I kept telling y'all about that was problematic, that was doing some really problematic MLK deepfakes? Well, they have officially banned MLK deepfakes because the family has complained. The King family was like, what are y'all doing? And they have complained about it, and a lot of people did. And as a result of that Sora AI company has now banned MLK deepfakes. They will not be allowing that to happen. Honestly, they should kill all this. But once again, AI is trying so hard to not resist the scrutiny that they're getting. A lot of people continue to press them and talk about how dangerous this shit is and how disrespectful it is to the King legacy. But there's so many other people that have had problems with it. So we're going to see where that goes. So let's talk about it. I think it's time. Before we talk about it, because I know what y'all want to talk about, we're going to talk about it. But let me get to this. NBC also, you all brought this up. NBC has cut their online diversity channels and vehicles. So anybody who remember NBC BLK, I used to write for them years ago when they had first launched. All of those outlets, it was NBC Asian America, Their Latino division, the LGBTQ section, that they had, all of those vehicles have been now sliced and cut. All of those writers and many people who worked for them have been laid off. There is no more diversity channels at NBC. The writing was on the wall, and now we've seen a groundswell of jobs being cut. But now it's happened over there. Honestly, any media outlet at this point that's mainstream and national that has put these designated specialty sections for diversity coverage across, if you work there, if you're a freelancer there, if you're someone who got a job there, if you have not already, let me just tell you right now, look for a new job. Don't wait. Don't wait. If there is a publication that's mainstream and they have a covering black coverage section, if they have a Latino community section, if they have all that, start looking for a new job. Try to get redirected in the department. Get a rehiring. Get reappointed somewhere else. I'm telling you this now. It's not looking good. I literally met somebody who worked at NBC BOK that was doing some coverage over there in that section. And I remember telling them, I was like, this was like months ago. I was like, you sure you're going to still have a job in this couple months? And people were like, oh, we're going to be fine. We're going to be, The money has dried up. The DEI is now DIE. Okay? They want to die. And not by their own choice, but I think they're doing budget cuts. And I think some of this is not the Trump administration, to be honest. I just think this is just them trying to make an excuse to cut jobs because the money's not coming in, the revenue's not coming in like it used to. And you know what they do? The first to go, the first hired, the first fired. And a lot of these DEI, types of coverage vehicles and channels were the first came through. A lot of them were there before 2020, but then a lot of people started to ramp up the budgeting for them in the midst of everything that was happening with George Floyd and the George Floyd murder. But ever since then, there's been a steady decline. And I think that that's the case that's happening right now. So I'm here to tell you all, if anyone has not told you, look for a new job. Now let's talk about Stephen A. Smith and about this black media brain rot. I really like this term brain rot. I've been hearing a lot of my students use it. And I think it's a good term, to be honest, because brain rot is what's happening right now. We're at a time where a lot of the media pundits that's on air right now, they don't really care about the facts. They don't even care about truth. They're just really pressed on trying to be liked. They want to be popular. And Stephen A. Smith and his ongoing attacks at Jasmine Crockett has been further proof of that. But none of this was a mistake. It is a deliberate choice, right? With Stephen A. Smith, I have to remind people that he's garnered a reputation for disrespecting the efforts of black women. He's come after Vice President Kamala Harris, First Lady Michelle Obama, Serena Williams, and other WNBA players. He is more prone to defending the likes of Donald Trump than he is to actually defending the women who are courageously standing up to him, right? This is what he does. And I consider this the black brain rot era because a lot of these mindless, viral, content creators are the kings of this, and their problematic harm is they produce as capital. I'm looking at all of these ex-professional athlete turned podcasters, right? You got Shannon Sharp, you got Cam Newton, you got these media personalities like Joe Budden and Charlamagne the God. I mean, a lot of this is these men making millions of dollars, pushing content that is dredged in misogyny, disinformation, and a lot of veiled bigotry against LGBTQI people and others, okay? They're trying to call this discourse, but it's really just another way of platforming contempt for the most marginalized amongst us. Really, it is. Like Cam Newton really did an interview recently where he interviewed hitmaker, who everybody should know as Young Berg, who was the one who was previously accused of pistol whipping his ex-girlfriend, um, and being abusive previously to Malika, who he dated before, right? This man was on the show Love and Hip Hop Los Angeles, or Love and Hip Hop Hollywood. He got taken off the show because of domestic dispute allegation against him with the woman on the show named Malika, and we didn't hear much about him, and we didn't see him again. Then he changed his name to Hitmaker, and all of a sudden, he's doing interviews with Cam Newton talking about all the women he previously slept with on this man's podcast, Funky Friday. I don't know where to start with Joe Budden, but, you know, in many ways, this man had to previously apologize for sexually harassing his former co-host, this young woman that was working on the show. She's no longer on it, talking about how inappropriate Joe Budden was been to her, how creepy he was. This man tried to be the Howard Stern of trying to be the Howard Stern of hip hop, the provocateur, you know? And then for the life of me, Charlamagne the God, who continues to get journalists, to continue to get politicians. Josh Shapiro, Governor Josh Shapiro, went on the Breakfast Club, okay? Talking about how he worked to exonerate or to commute the sentence for Wallow. Right? Like, this is what they're doing. Like, this is how Josh Shapiro panders. People are like, why is he on the Breakfast Club? Because he wants to be president, y'all. So he is making all of his national media appearances. So once again, he's on the Breakfast Club. You know, this is what he does, right? And then Kamala Harris was in conversation with Charlamagne the God for her book tour. And I'm thinking to myself, this man spread misinformation, and you're giving this man this type of opportunity to have access to you. It's been hard to watch this. It's been really hard to watch this. And I've noticed a pattern that she spent a great deal of her time, you know, having a critique. She was in Birmingham, Alabama, and Charlamagne the God interviewed her. But this is a man who has consistently had a repeated history of homophobia and transphobia and all these other things. Like, this man has continued to platform bigots. He continues to have stupid conversations. But for the life of them, they love giving him a platform, even though he has played both sides. To the point that they were even using clips of his interview and his critique of the Harris administration and Biden in attack ads by Trump towards Harris during the election cycle. But this is what she wants to uplift. These are the people that they want to platform. But I want to say to all of you all, and some of my critics that will tell me, oh, you know, you got to talk this way, Ernest. You got to be this way. Try to throw me in respectability politics. Baby, that is out the window. If the former vice president will allow Charlamagne the God to interview her with his pissy mouth, his disgusting politics, his, you know, rape allegations, his disdain for black women, his insults to the LGBTQI community, the community which has supported her loyally and has supported her presidency. If that's what she thinks is worthy of her time, I don't think I got to change anything about myself, because look, I may not be perfect, but I damn sure ain't Charlamagne the God. And I have definitely been on the right side of history more than many times. And for her to continue to entertain men like that, that's a choice. And even the same for Charlamagne the God, because, I mean, even Josh Shapiro going on that show, of all the podcasts he can go on, of all the radio shows he can go on, but he chooses to go on shows like that. I want him to come on The Record with Ernest Owens. I want him to sit down in the hot seat. I want him to hear my thoughts. I want him to answer my questions that I have for him. But I'm also willing to believe that someone like him will not, because I will not gravel his feet like the king that he wants to be. And because people like Charlamagne the God and others do not really know much about him and don't do their research, and they'll give him softball questions. He doesn't really want to talk to journalists like me, black journalists like me from Philadelphia. He does not. He wants to talk to sycophants. He wants to talk to fans, or he wants to take tough questions only from white reporters. But that's who we're dealing with. So, this Marc Lamont Hill debate, everyone's been debating whether Marc should be on the show, should he be not. Last week, he was on the show with a guy named Flip, or whatever the man names himself today. They had an argument, and the guy on the show, on the Joe Budden Podcast, this is one of his co-hosts, but a Marc Lamont Hill's co-host, said he was on sucker shit. And it escalated to Marc being triggered in a way that he had a physical confrontation with this man to the point that it almost could have been a physical fight. He was so triggered. He was so angry. And he lost his cool and actually wanted to fight this man. They launched at each other. They wanted to go outside. It was very heated. And it was instigated by Joe Budden. It was instigated by other people. There's been debates by non-journalists, because I have to say that many people who are not journalists have been saying that Marc should go on that show. Marc should go there and challenge these people. Marc should meet these people where they're at. And that for him not to be on the show is, we talk about meeting people where they are. And I think so many people are so brain dead when it comes to their takes on this. Because I'm like, I understand your logic, but I think people don't understand environment. And so, as somebody who has gone into spaces because they're saying it's elitist for people to tell Marc that this is beneath him. Going on the Joe Budden podcast is beneath him, right? Yeah. Okay, sure. They're saying that Marc needs to be here because this is how we lost the election. Because we didn't engage these types of black men. We didn't engage these types of people listening, and that Marc is providing intellectual information to make them change their thinking, and that he's doing this important work and necessary work. Okay, sure. So here's my thoughts about this, whether Marc should do it or not do it. I mean, at this point, I think we're asking the wrong question. I think that this isn't actually a question. I think that there is a better answer. Are the intellectual, smart people in the room with me? Because if you're in the room with me, I want you to hear me loud and clear. Why are you listening to the Joe Budden podcast? Are you listening to the show? Do you listen? And if you do listen, do you find that Marc is doing what you think Marc is doing on that show? I mean, are you actually talking to the people that you find to be uneducated? Are those uneducated people listening to the podcast? Are they? Are they finding Marc to be the person that's actually changing their perspective? And is their first time getting exposed to this type of rigor is from Marc Lamont Hill? I just want us to not understand what's happening here. Marc Lamont Hill is an entertainer. He is academic. He has a doctorate. But Marc Lamont Hill also dabbles in the entertainment business. Is the Joe Budden podcast a platform for intellectual discourse? It's not. It's not. It's not. First of all, in order to really have intellectual discourse with people, because let's talk about what the show could be or what the show is and what you all are misreading on this show and what makes this very problematic. And I think the problem is that a lot of the people that I hear trying to have these conversations are not having these conversations legitimately in their own spaces. And again, I don't want to be, I'm not trying to be crass, but I got to call a thing, because as somebody who has actually had intellectual discourse and have had this debates and have had these things, let me explain what this is and what it is not, right? For starters, Marc Lamont Hill, we got to understand, is an entertainer in this space. Marc Lamont Hill is not with his peers on this show. Marc Lamont Hill is the only person on that podcast that has a level of scholarly research. He's done research. He has a doctorate, right? He has an intellectual basis of education that allows him to do research. He might be potentially the only person on that show that has an advanced degree outside of a bachelor's degree. I may be wrong, but I don't think anybody else on that show might have a bachelor's degree. And if they do, that might be it. He's the only person on that show that has even a master's degree and beyond a master's degree, a doctorate. He's the only person that might have an advanced degree beyond a bachelor's degree. I might be willing to say that's about right. And I think we need to be clear about what we're saying, because if we're going to talk about intellectualism and scholarliness, then we need to actually name that you just can't walk in a room and say I'm a scholar without actual bona fides. Do we understand what the word scholar is? The root word of that is scholarship. To do something scholarly means to do something based in academia and some level of research and collection. There's nobody else on that show but Marc Lamont Hill who has done that. Okay? So let's be very clear. There will be no scholarly debate on that show because Marc cannot do it by himself, right? In order to have a debate, you debate your equals. You do not debate. If you do anything else, what are you doing? There's a great quote that was said, and I want to repeat this famous quote, and I always tell people this quote when people forget. I only debate my equals. All others I teach. That is by John Henrik Clarke, okay? That is a very powerful quote that I have to remind myself of sometimes because a lot of you all forget this. You forget this important fact and your feelings get hurt. But we got to say, if you're tough guys on these podcasts and you're oftentimes talking about, oh, fuck feelings and yada, yada, yada. Well, then fuck feelings right now. Let's get with the facts. So in order to have academic scholarly discourse or intellectual discourse, there has to be two people in the space that are scholars or intellects. Marc is the only intellect on that show. So therefore, he cannot debate himself, which means that there will be no actual intellectual scholarly discourse to be had or debate, because for him to debate, he has to debate his equal or his peer. None of them are his equal or his peer on that show, respectfully. It's not to say that that's what he do, but any of you all who think that that show can produce that, it cannot produce that. To be honest, it cannot. Now, when I went to the Oxford Union, I debated scholars. I debated other intellects of my caliber that were on the right, but they came from a basis of research and analysis. And so when I went to Oxford Union, I came with that same type of understanding in class, and we was able to debate issues and be able to come from a basis of understanding. That was a debate, y'all, okay? That was an intellectual debate on cancel culture. I have participated in things like that, okay? Call me elitist, but that's where it is. Debates like that happen in college spaces. They happen in spaces of intellect, okay? They do not happen on the Joe Budden podcast. I know you want that to happen, but that's not the space where it happens because Joe Budden is not in the space of producing that type of caliber of talent to come on his show and do that. Where do you see intellectual debates take place? On the Ezra Klein show, okay? You may not agree with Ezra Klein, but Ezra Klein is intellectual. He has it with intellectual people like Ta-Nehisi Coates, okay? So there is a possibility to have an intellectual debate. If you all want that, you can watch the Ezra Klein show. Do I like Ezra Klein personally? No. But what I do appreciate about the program is that there will be debates where he can bring up his points and he can have it. And there's a basis of education and scholarly research and facts that ground the understanding. Okay, to have an intellectual debate, you have to have it as a basis around facts and research, and you have to have it rooted there. You cannot have an intellectual debate with someone where one person's providing facts and information and they're using vocabulary and you're saying those are big words. And these are not big words. These are not flashy words. These are not shaky words. That's ridiculous, right? But to critique someone's actual language in an intellectual debate is also very telling within itself. But again, if you want to claim this intellectual debate, that's not happening on so many levels because most of the debates, quote unquote, that are happening on Joe Budden's quote unquote podcast are people just expressing their opinions about how they feel and what they think. They don't tell you the basis of it. They don't root it in any types of facts. They're making a lot of anecdotal analysis like, oh, this happened to me, so therefore it happens. A lot of strawman arguments. That is what they're doing on that show. And Marc is basically spending more time engaging them, but not debating them. So let's talk about what Marc is actually doing on that show. Marc is an educator on that show. He is actually trying so much to provide facts and information and to challenge your thinking. He is being a professor in that space in so many different ways. Now, there are times when he's a little loose and a little silly and goofy and does dumb shit. But when he is, quote unquote, putting his intellectual hat on, he's not debating these men. He's educating these men. And so some people might argue that if you or to make the case for Marc to be on the show, recognize that the case that Marc should be on that show is not to debate and argue those men, but to educate them. And if he wants to be paid to educate those men, then by all means, educate them, right? Tell them they're wrong, give them the facts, and shut the fuck up and keep moving and get your check. Now, if you want to be a paid academic voice on the show, by all means, do that. Go to the show with a sense of, I'm here to educate these ignorant, dumbass co-hosts. Because that's really what you all want him to do. Because if you really took any of them seriously, then we wouldn't even be having a debate on whether or not he should be on the show. So he is on the show. Let's actually talk about what his purpose is. Now, quite frankly, I'm going to tell you why I'm cynical about all this shit. But let me just entertain for I guess, a couple of seconds, the argument in the case for why Marc should stay on the show. Marc should be on the show to be as an educator. Marc should not be debating any of these men on any of these dumbass topics. And he really shouldn't be wasting his energy because they are not doing the research. They're not trying to. They have him on the show to provide balance to the show. Joe Budden is looking at what Jason Lee has done. He's looking at what Charlamagne the God is doing. And that you cannot have a show with a bunch of bros that don't know shit because people will be over it. Marc Lamont Hill, Dr. Marc Lamont Hill, of course, is on the show to provide some contrast. And that is what made the show interesting because there is some difference of opinions and viewpoints. There's got to be a smart person on the show. There's got to be a dunce on the show. And there's got to be a bunch of instigating, middle-of-the-road guys on the show. He's got that. And there's got to be a woman's voice, right? Clearly, I think that Melissa Ford, who was on the show, she might not be coming back. I don't think she's on the show. They got a new woman who's on the show, and she seems to hold her own. I think her name is Mona. I think she is there to hold her own. She's the Jessica Yee of the show, right? That's what they do. When you look at Jason Lee's shows, he always tries to have a woman. In the past, he used to have a woman on the show that had some level of, scholarly, intellectual curiosity, interest. Okay, that is a model that has been on these shows for a while. Joe Budden has finally cracked the code for his show, and he's doing it, and it's becoming a way to raise ratings. Now, I've given you the positives of this argument. Now, let me get into why I'm skeptical about this. Marc Lamont Hill is a human. He is not a robot. What he does is exhausting, and that man looks tired and exhausted. The man wants money. The man needs money. He has a child. He's married. He's got a lot of responsibilities, seen and unforeseen, that I will not discuss on this podcast. Marc has some financial obligations that he needs to take care of. And as a result of that, he is going to go wherever is going to cut the check. After he lost that CNN gig, he's lost a lot of other similar gigs. He has experienced some level of blacklisting by the mainstream media. And it's very unfortunate. That is why he's on Al Jazeera English. He tried to be on the Black News Channel. He lost that gig. He just hops around because he is trying to make money. Okay? He needs it. Okay? To maintain the lifestyle that he has and the things. Marc needs money. Okay? And so that's why you saw him on shows like Basketball Wives. Like people say that was beneath him. Like, why would you do a show like that? What intellectual value is there? One would argue that Marc also likes to be an entertainer. He likes to have a little bit of everything. He likes to have balance. I get that. But let's not put it by us that Marc needs the money. Okay. And the truth of the matter is that at the end of the day, Marc is still a person. And like any person, you will get pissed off. You'll get frustrated when you're being disrespected. Marc is in a classroom with a bunch of unruly children. He has a bunch of students in his class that clearly are defiant, arrogant, and disrespectful. And when you're a professor, as someone who is a professor, and you're trying so hard to educate and teach people that you care about, and they continue to spit at you and disrespect you and then come at you and all the things, right? At some point, you're going to pop off. And so my concern isn't about whether or not Marc is making an impact or not. My concern is his own personal well-being. These guys are not necessarily pupils that are going to be humble. They have egos. They're sensitive. And they don't have much to lose compared to what Marc has to lose. Seeing Marc go off like that was a man who's been pushed to his brink. His tolerance level for this shit has gotten the best of him at certain points. And to those people that tell him to stay, let's be honest why you want him to stay. You want him to stay because you don't have an alternative where he can go and make that kind of money. You don't. This has become his full job, podcasting. Podcasting has become his career. He has now become a content creator and a podcaster. Sure, he makes appearances on Al Jazeera English and these other places, but at this point, I don't think the word, to call Marc Lamont Hill a journalist at this point, I don't think is the proper term, and I think he would agree. So what are we calling Marc? A media personality? I don't know if I can call him an intellectual debater at this point because he's not debating his peers anymore. The days of him and Eric Michael Dyson and others, I don't know. I don't see it right now. Like, I hate the fact that some of his grand debates is not him taking on far right Republicans, right, and challenging them, but arguing with dudes who are wearing bald middle-aged men who are showing up with their bellies out and in caps that don't fit their heads properly. And we say to people, meeting people where they're at, do we think that a lot of the black men in our lives think like that? I'm not saying they do or don't, but I'm just saying to all of my smart folks out there, do our brothers not know who we are? Are we not having these conversations in the hood or in our neighborhoods or at our barbershops? Because to be honest with you, the Joe Budden Podcast reminds me of my barbershop. Except those men on that show have money and have resources to educate themselves. There is a devout interest in them retaining ignorant for that show. They're not trying to get better. Because if they were trying to get better, the point of the show begins to go to mush. I mean, I really want y'all to think about that. There's a reason why the guy Flip or whatever is on that show. Because Flip is supposed to be a hothead. He's supposed to not have any rhyme or reason. He's the foil to Marc's intellectual prowess. If he is supposed to get it and learn and be better, what will be his point to be on the show? So much of the media that we see right now is meant to rage bait, for money, for clicks. It has not dawned on me that week before that episode, Marc Lamont Hill created Patreon. And once he created the Patreon, he began to now market these blow-ups. So he charged people. I don't know if y'all saw his Patreon because I'm not a subscriber. But right after that viral moment, did you know that you can pay Marc like 3 minutes? You can pay him $3 to watch him talk about his own viewpoint of what happened. So you got paid to have a fight or argument per se, right? On the show. And now your subscribers and others and your followers have to pay you now to hear your personal take about what happened. This is Marc the Marxist, y'all, the anti-capitalist, y'all. I'm just saying. So now we got to pay to hear the fight. And then we got to pay for the aftertakes of the fight. This is giving reality TV. This is giving clout. Like, what are we talking about here? So it's not enough money for you to be paid to be on that show. Now you want your followers to pay you to give us a recap about it. These are choices, y'all. These are choices. I'm going to leave it there. So in local politics, there's been a lot going on. So much. You know, Kata Scott is the young woman who has been found officially murdered. There's been a lot of talk. Her remains were found near a school. It's a devastating conclusion after what has been nearly 2 weeks of people trying to find her body. The suspect is a man named Keon King, who they said abducted Kata Scott this month. This has been an investigation for quite some time. She is 23 years old. She was 23 years old. She's now deceased. She was missing for a period of time, and a lot of people are critical. But here's the criticalness, right? So the DA, Larry Krasner, has taken ownership of his office's handling of a previously withdrawn kidnapping, withdrawn kidnapping charges against Keon King, who is now being accused of kidnapping Kata Scott. He also complained that even though prosecutors asked for $999, basically nearly $1 million, it was $999,999 was with the bail. The bail magistrate set it lower, allowing King to post the necessary funds and be released. So Krasner said that King's release may have been what discouraged the victim from coming to court, leading prosecutors to withdraw the case. So prosecutors had withdrawn the case because once Keon King was let go, that scared and may have intimidated the victim from coming forward because they didn't know what happened. And so Krasner said that ultimately the buck stops here, is what he said during a press conference, in which he vowed to use every city resource to investigate King during Scott's safe return. That was earlier this week before we found out that she was murdered. He says it is not his job to throw other people under the bus. And yet moments earlier, Krasner had did that. And that was a critique. People said when he was asked whether his office appealed the bail judge's decision, Krasner said that it would have been a fruitless effort because judges rarely support such appeals. So he pretty much threw the courts under the bus. He said, quote, "You have the option of trying to do what is often a midnight or 3 a.m. telephonic appeal to the municipal court judge. The unfortunate reality of this is that some, but not all, of these judges don't want you calling them in the middle of the night, and if you do, they lower the bail." But the city courts have argued that that is not true. Martin O'Rourke, who's a spokesperson for the courts, said that Krasner and his staff know that municipal court and common pleas court judges are on call 24/7 for emergency matters. And they said, in light of this truth, the DA's comments are appallingly disrespectful and a sad attempt on his part to find a scapegoat for his own failings on this matter. So in many ways, Krasner dropped that ball. Krasner dropped the ball because the man accused of kidnapping Kata Scott and now might be accused of killing her would have been behind bars had it not been for Krasner's own cash bail judicial practices. I just want y'all to know that on Tuesday, November 4th, there is an election, that Krasner is up for re-election. And I'm not telling you all who to vote for or support. I know you all are going to vote how you want to vote, but this is why these judicial races and these DA races matter. Krasner is up for re-election. And this story could not have come at a different time. Now, for myself, I don't think it's going to make a difference. I think people are going to still vote for Krasner. But what I will say, personally, is that I think that this third and final term should be Krasner's last term. I think it should be his last term. He doesn't technically have term limits. He can run for DA as long as he wants to. But I personally think that this should be the final time for him as a DA. I'm not saying his political career should be over. Who knows? But I do think personally that this should be his final term as DA. Because at this point, he would have served, when he finishes his third term, 12 years in office. I think it's going to be time to pass the baton. Because by 2030, we're going to have a different Philadelphia. And I don't know if Krasner's judgments and some of the things he's doing is going to be in favor with a lot of people. So we'll see. But it's not looking good politically for him right now. I mean, office-wise, sure, I don't think he's going to lose his seat personally. But I also don't think that this situation makes him look good either. There's been a lot of talk about, this race coming up for the congressional race. There's been some major shakeups happening. And the buildings trades have endorsed Shreve Street. They've endorsed Shreve Street for Congress. Now, the buildings trades, if you know who they are, that is led by their leader, Ryan Boyer. And Ryan Boyer has come out with a statement, and the building trades, they're endorsing Shreve Street for Congress. This is a big deal because, as previously reported on Ernestly Speaking, and I want to make sure I report these numbers, the numbers have come in, okay? We have the numbers from the, Q3 report for the congressional third race. These are the most latest numbers based on October 1st deadline. And this is in ranking order. So, here we go. Shreve Street has the most amount of money. He has raised $352,000. He currently has $372,000 on hand. Chris Rabb, he raised $257,000. He currently has $181,000 on hand. Now, Morgan Cephas, she raised $155,000, or we'll estimate that $156,000. She currently has $119,000 on hand. I'm estimating this based on, the closest number to 1,000 they are. Now, Neil Oxman, he has raised $108,000, but he has $331,000 or $332,000 on hand. Now, there's another candidate named Carl Morris. Carl Morris raised $28,000. He has roughly $12,000 on hand. Robin Todens, who apparently is running, we don't really know who that is. They don't have a report. Dr. Ayla Stanford entered the race during the first week of Q4, so we don't have numbers on how much she has currently. Right now, the reigning leader on both fronts is Shreve Street. He has raised the most money. He's raised over $350,000, and he has over $372,000 on hand. He is the front runner right now as far as fundraising goes. Now, what's interesting is that Chris Rabb is the second highest fundraiser. He's raised $257,000, but he does not currently have the most cash on hand. Neil Oxman, who's the doctor, he's a white man who is running. He has $331,000 on hand. And so what is being assumed is that that money on hand is not money raised, but it's own money. So he's not, that money that he has in contrast is not money he's raising, but money that is coming from his own coffers and pocket. Very interesting. Chris Rabb, he's got $181,000 on hand right now. Morgan Cephas has $118,000 on hand. So I don't know, y'all. It's not looking good. If I was Carl Morris, personally, I would drop out the race. I don't know how I would personally drop out the race if I was him. Neil Oxman is interesting. I don't know about the name recognition, especially with Dr. Ayla Stanford in the race. We're going to see. Morgan Cephas, though, I don't know about this fundraising, but it's a little too early in the game to say something. I think it's a little too early. It's too early. This is what's coming out, but something's got to give. January 15th is the deadline when we will find out the next big amount of money. We're going to see Dr. Ayla Stanford's money. We're going to see Shreve Street's money. We're going to see everybody at that point. January 15th, I think everybody's looking at. That's the put up and shut up era, in my opinion. That is going to be a moment to see. So, yeah, I am very big on that. So I encourage a lot of you all to take the time to see what's going on, because it is a big one. It is a big one. So let's talk about my interview with Dr. Ayla Stanford. It was in person. She came to the studio. This was the long-awaited interview that a lot of people wanted to hear and see because I've had a lot of concerns, questions, and thoughts about all of it. The interview was good. I mean, you can listen to it. I thought that the interview was good. And what I mean by good was I felt like it was very engaging. It's not about whether or not I agreed with her stances. It's not about whether or not I thought she was whatever. I would say she answered my questions. She did not get the questions in advance. I'm not like some people out here. All of my special guests that come on the show, I do not tell them what I'm going to ask them about. I do not tell them anything. I give them their parameters. I let them know what's happening. I let them know. And she came, she showed up, she did the interview. It was a very good interview. I was very happy that she, did not back down. She didn't get up. She didn't leave. She didn't throw a fit. She was very engaged. She answered the questions. And, I got a better sense of her interest in running this race. Now, I want to be very clear. What I'm about to say is my interpretation of what she said. You can listen to her directly or her quotes. You can listen to what she's saying. You can listen to what she said verbatim. But I'm going to give you my summary of what I gather about what she's bringing to the table and what she thinks matters. So let's be clear, right? We got the elephant out the room about her living in the area. The carpetbagging allegations, right? And so a lot of people are trying to figure out what does carpetbagging mean. Carpetbagging, I want to define it for you all. Like, it's a thing. Okay. A carpetbagger is a political candidate who seeks election in an area where they have no local connections. Now, she's been trying to push against that, right? She does not live until recently, because she did reveal this on the show, that she recently just purchased a house or a property on Chestnut Hill, which is in the 3rd Congressional District. And she has not lived there yet, but she plans to move there. She's purchased the property. She is making a nest and a home there to be able to live amongst the people in her congressional district. I'm sorry, her newly minted congressional district, because she has a house in Montgomery County. She just moved there about a week or so ago. She has not fully lived there yet, but she has gotten the property. It's in Chestnut Hill. She's going to be living there. And if she's elected, I imagine that will be her new home. But as of right now, she does have a property there. And I want to be also very clear that federal law does not regulate congressional candidates must live in the district to which they're serving. Many people talk about the fact that, Summer Lee, who is the only Black woman that is in Congress in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, does not live in the congressional district to which she serves. But one would not argue, some people would not call her a carpetbagger. It has not been brought up in the same way. I think the reason why there's a lot of critique around Dr. Ayla Stanford is because of the fact that there are other candidates who are Black, who one would argue have experience that could easily do it. And she lives in Mary Gay Scallon's district. One would argue, why not run there? And I've asked her that. I did ask her that on the record. Her argument is that she wants to serve where there's need. She is from the 3rd District. She was born there, and she feels as though she is someone who is the best candidate to run in that area because, one, she got the blessing of Dwight Evans, who is the current congressman and incumbent. And she's like, look, he thinks I'm good to be there. He didn't question the fact that I didn't live there. That's one. But the second one is because she says, look, I have done a lot of work in that district. She has got a location. She does a lot of services there. She provides a lot of healthcare service. She did at a time when it was not popular. And she did something that was very shocking. She actually called out former Mayor Jim Kenney. I was going to say James Kenney. His real name is James Kenney, but he goes by Jim Kenney, right? Former mayor. She finally called him out and said that he was reluctant to providing her those resources when she first was there. And I spoke about this in my podcast in season 1. Y'all remember that episode, that season. I came in hot, right? But I talked about how there was problems in that administration. She never really wanted to call out the mayor outright because I think she wanted to play it nice. She didn't want to call out the mayor. But the mayor was, Kenney was not the best to her in the start of the pandemic. There was a lot of things being said in the health department that, Black people didn't want the vaccine, so why would they give her money to go out and pursue those vaccinations? What a lie, right? But that department also was not trying to give her the funding and the support of her initiatives until after they had that scandal with that Drexel student who basically failed in his operations to provide it, right? This white boy who had no real actual healthcare knowledge had a big old plan to do this at you remember that? The convention center? I mean, remember that whole scandal? And it failed and it tanked. And it was a big embarrassment in the city and it was national news and press. After that, they looked at Dr. Ayla Stanford, said, we need you. And they gave her the resources and the funding to support her efforts. And that's how this was able to be magnified, right? Years later, from that support and success, she got appointed by Biden to serve in his administration and do health research in the region. And since then, she's done that work. She argues that she has the most experience. She has worked in the federal government. She has not been elected official, but she said she's worked in the federal administration. She served at the pleasure of President Joe Biden. And she says none of her opponents has done that. She says that she's an entrepreneur. She actually knows what it means to build a business and build something from the ground up. She's arguing that none of her candidates have done that as well. None of her opponents have done that. And in many ways, her argument is that in so many different ways, she was like, if they were so competent and she thought they could do a good job and serve, she wouldn't have relocated to this area to basically run against them and to run for this seat. She says that she is the most qualified and she is the best person for this job. And pretty much the rest of her opponents do not have the experience and the type of spirit that she has to lead. That is her attitude. That is her argument. Point blank, period. She's like, they ain't never built anything. They ain't never been business people. They're career politicians. They've been elected. They serve. They do their job. But they have not done what she's been able to accomplish. And she thinks the voters are tired of politics as usual. And she wants to provide something different. And she said that is why Dwight Evans endorsed her. She also clarified that there was no deal between Dwight Evans to hire any of their staff. She said, look, she was surprised they endorsed her. She said she spoke to him and reached out to him when she first ran back in July. She said she was surprised at the week of her announcement that he came through to endorse her. And she was grateful for the endorsement. She thinks she can do a good job. And clearly, if he thought these other people that he's worked with in various political suits were good for the job, then he would endorse them. But clearly, he doesn't think that they're good. So she stood tall. She spoke big business, but that was her stances on it. And I'm intrigued. I think she makes a good case for herself. You know, I'm not disclosing who I'm endorsing, I'm supporting. To be honest, I'm going to see how this election plays out. I think it's too early. You know, these candidates have to announce, they have to prove their record. She said she has, you know, the reputation. She said she has the record. Look, Morgan Cephas has the receipts. Dr. Ayla Stanford says she has the records. You know, the fine woman of AKA. Okay? You know, she has the record. She's AKA. She said, look, I've done the work. People know me. She said she has the national name recognition. She's a household name, she said. Oh, she talked heavy on this show. I listened. She said, look, I got the name recognition. People know who I am. You know, they knew who I was when I was out here in these communities. Now, all of a sudden, I run for office, and everybody want to act like I shouldn't have served. I want to hear what Morgan Cephas has to say. I want to hear what they got to say. See, when I interviewed Morgan tried to steer away from that. I was trying to give her the chance to talk about it. You know, Dr. Stanford had not announced yet, but I mean, Morgan, you're going to have to, and this is my advice to all these candidates, Morgan, you're going to have to toughen up in your campaign, because the whole argument initially, the appeal of Morgan Cephas from voters that I've spoken to on the ground said that she was the only black woman in the race and they wanted to support her because they didn't want to see all these men. Now that Dr. Ayla Stanford has joined the race, I mean, there's now options. And what I'm hearing from voters is that they feel like Dr. Ayla Stanford is a stronger female candidate against her other opponents. They think that Morgan's the weaker candidate. Morgan, come on, stand up, fight. Something's got to give. Sharif Street, State Senator Sharif Street, you got some big unions backing you. That's for sure. But how do you make the case that you are the person ready for Congress when Dr. Ayla Stanford says, look, she's had federal, experience. She has done it. And that, look, you're a career politician. She didn't say it out loud, but that's what she implied. That she's done other work. She's done other things. What have you done? What can you do? When there was a pandemic and all of you all were in your suits, she's the one who was of service. How are you of service? Make it make sense. Chris Rabb What's going on? Where you at, Chris Rapp? You doing good. You raising some money. But I mean, I think that some people are arguing that you claim you're a progressive. You're the real progressive in the room. But apparently, according to track records, Shreve Street has had a stronger progressive track record than you have, or just equally to where you have. Progressives like Shreve Street. Several progressives I know don't really care much for you. You might consider Shreve Street a part of the establishment because of his bona fides, but on his track record, I mean, he's hanging out with the likes of Krasner. I haven't really heard Krasner say much about your race. I know that you guys have been cordial, but they say you're not playing fair in the sandbox with other progressives. And even your interview that you had with me, there were some progressives that were offended that you said you was the real progressive, that the real progressives in the Judicial Committee voted against those amendments and those policies. There were some progressives that were offended by that. Are you saying that State Representative Andre Carroll is not a real progressive? Are you saying that, Malcolm Kenyatta is not a real progressive? No, I don't think you're a real progressive. But I mean, what are you saying? You got to put a name on it. And so Chris Rabb talked big talk, but it seems like the coalition that he's trying to build might be up in the air. But that fundraising, though, I must say, the man can raise some money. He is the second highest fundraiser, right? We don't know what Dr. Ellis Stanford brings to the table yet, but she feels very confident about her fundraising. She says, look, she got national money, local money. She says people whose lives she has saved. She says she saved lives, literally. And I got to give credit where credit's due. She did give me the COVID shot, the COVID vaccination. I have not gotten COVID since. Some would argue that because she saved my life or she was a part of administering that vaccination, that she got my vote. I want to tell y'all something, and I want to be very honest with you. There are a lot of people who have ran for office over the years that have done nice things for me, have done things for me that were essential. But I had to keep it 100. Just because you're good in one department don't mean you're good for another. There's people who have run for office that have saved the lives and saved the futures of people that I personally know and I think was good in the criminal justice realm. But they didn't necessarily have my vote in the primaries when they decided to run for certain seats, like Attorney General. So let's be true. Let's be clear. Two things can be true at the same time. We should not assume anybody's endorsements or support. You could be good at one thing, but you may not be good at another. We don't know. We got to see. So I want to be very clear. I am not endorsing any candidates right now because number one, I need to see people go on the ballot. I want to see people go on the ballot. And also, Dr. Ayla Stanford brought up something very interesting, and I want to bring this up. She's interested in the forum, and she would like me to moderate the forum. And she told me that if I had a candidates forum or a candidates debate, she would be there. I think Shreve Street would be there. I think that Morgan Cephas would be there. I think Chris Rabb would be there if I did it. So I can't make an endorsement until we get to that point, until we see them debate. I want them to duke it out. I am not invested in endorsing. I'm a journalist right now. Don't ask me who I'm voting for. I don't know. Publicly, I don't know. Privately, I might have my opinions right now. I have people rummaging in my mind. But until we see this race, play out, I'm gonna reserve my opinions until I see how it play out. I'm gonna leave that there. Okay. I will not say anything more on that. We're gonna keep following this election. So there's been a new study that came out that said that Gen Z is broke and hungry for dates. Pretty much a new study came out that Gen Z, and my younger brother is a Gen Zer. They're saying that there are people that are going out on dates just to get meals paid for. Listen, they saying Gen Z is the only people that did that. Dr. Parks. I remember there was a time. Let me be quiet. They're saying that the way that the economy is set up, that a lot of Gen Zers, I guess Gen Z women, are specifically going on dates. They're broke. They don't have money to pay for meals. So they're going on dates, letting people take them out, men take them out. I don't know which age group the men are in, but they're letting them take them out so they can be able to enjoy a meal or two Because, sometimes they might get the meal and get leftovers. So they might be a serial dater for a meal in a week. Broke with expensive taste. Now, back in my day, they had a word for that. I'm not going to say that word here. But I'm just saying that no good on deed goes unpunished. And ain't nothing free, if you know what I mean. Just going to leave that there. Next case. Now, this week's Ask Ernest. A lot of you all, because I guess it was my anniversary, was asking me about what is the secret to a long-term relationship like mine. And, giving relationship advice is always been, I'm not going to say the word hit or miss for me, but just always been like, do you really care what I think? Because I don't want people I actually don't really seek I've never really sought relationship advice from that many people in my life. I'm not one of those people that like rely on relationship advice. I've never really done it. Like there have been people who have given relationship advice. Some that I didn't even request, to be quite honest. I was like, leave me alone. Stop. That's not please. Some people I'm like, your marriage is not aspirational to me. I don't really need you to tell me. Anywho, I'm just, first of all, I think because we're in a queer relationship, like we're both two openly Black gay men, that a lot of times straight people try to give me relationship advice, but I'm like, some of those things don't apply because we don't really follow a very heteronormative type of dynamic of one person works in the house, one person. We don't really do that. We're both, breadwinners. We have a bakery. Some of y'all are looking for the breadwinner, and some of us are bakery owners. We're bakery owners. We are co-owners of bakeries. We both have the bread, and we both are winning it, and we both have multiple loaves to share and put up for things. So while some of y'all are looking for a breadwinner, some of us are owning bakeries. And I mean that in a very metaphorical sense, but you get what I'm saying. So we're co-owners of a bakery over here. We're bakery co-owners at this house. There's no breadwinner. Like literally, I'm dead ass. Like every year it is, let me just say that, I might be talking too much, but let me just say that both of us are definitely holding our own. I think a lot of people look at me and think, yes, I'm a little bit more high profile with the way in which I make deals and make money. But I want y'all to know that when this man became an entrepreneur and decided to create his own business, the conversation has definitely changed. He's got some clients, honey. Got some clients. That's surefire public relations. Okay. That's surefire public relations. Getting some top dollar. But I say it to say that in our universe, right? And this kind of brings me to my answer I'm going to get to about my advice. Is that for those reasons I'm saying, marry and date your equal. Ladies, men, they, them, date your equal. And I'm not going to define what an equal is, but you know what it means. Marry and date your equal. Now, I'm not saying hook up with your equal, because if you're just trying to hook up, get what you want and get what you need in that moment for whatever reasons. I used to listen when I was single, okay? I'm about to be a little frank here. I might be a little crass, just full disclosure. But I used to tell people all the time, if you're trying to get dick, it don't matter what degree or what school that, whatever they came from. If you need the job needs to get the job, okay? If it's thick and it's doing what it needs to do, it needs to do what it needs to do, okay? I just sometimes be wondering what people, like I had friends in college, homegirls, and they would just be out here. I'm like, why are you vetting the people you're hooking up with? Now, let's be clear. You need to have some type of standards, right? Some standard, right? You want to make sure people are, hygienically together. You know what I mean? Like, you just can't be coming up here smelling like a pack of Marlboros and like, listen, we wanted to be, we want to be smelling good. You want to be clean. We want you to be right. If you're going to hook up, I mean, now see, I would tell people that my standards when it used to come, when I was single and I was hooking up, right? That if I was on some like cute little blind date and we just wanted to hook, you just want somebody to be right. Take me out to a cute little bar, we used to go to Mad Max, whatever. Take me to Copacabana back in the day, give me a cute little drink. Let's go out, and then we would hook up. And, listen, if it was good, it'd be like you have your little zaddy in the phone. You have your little dip, like, look, when I want a good little, nice little out for the drinks and get a little action, this is what it was giving. That person don't need to be my friends. That person don't need to know anything else because they had a role, right? And so in that situation, I just needed somebody to fulfill my sexual needs and desires. And whoever that person is, whatever that person is, may not have been intellectually stimulating because they were not stimulating my intellect. They were stimulating other parts of my body. And if they could do that well, then oh well, right? I think we need to be clear about what this means because some of you all, I don't know. When I be giving relationship advice, I don't know. Some people are not learning the right lessons from the right teachings, right? They're learning the wrong lessons from the right teachings, okay? So let me be very clear, okay? When I say date your equal, I'm talking about I am pursuing someone for a long-term relationship and for marriage. If you're just trying to hook up, let it be different. So when I was in a situation where I was single and I was not trying to find anybody, I just was not in the space for that. But I had sexual needs, right? I had, certain folks that was just, they were good for that, and vice versa. They look, they wasn't trying to, they probably, some of them, I must say, some of them started to crush on me and get little feelings. They would start to be like, yo, why are we? And I was like, wait a minute, you're asking the wrong question. When they start asking questions like, what are we and why can't we? Cut that. Hold on. I told you what I wanted. Now, see, this is the problem with some of you guys. And I'm talking about men. Women don't do this as much. Not the women I know. But the men I know, they will get involved with somebody and they will be very transparent up front that they want to hook up. And if that's what it is, let it be what it's going to be. Let me be very clear. When I was single and I was dealing with men that I was not serious about, I had boundaries and parameters, okay? Here were some of the parameters and the boundaries. Number one, we was not going out for dinner, okay? You're not taking me to a fancy date. I do not want to break your bank. Some of them even have the break, okay? We ain't doing all that. If you want to go for some cute drinks or you want to come to the crib, you want to bring a bottle, whatever, okay? Fine, that's cool. Number two, I was not meeting their friends. I was not going out no, that's too comfortable. No. I don't need to meet your friends. Why I need to meet your friends? This is not that, and this is not that. If you're I was just here for some dick. If that's not what it is, I don't need to do all that. Why am I meeting your friends and meeting your frat brothers and all? Too much, okay? Third, whatever we did was on the terms in which I wanted it. I was not trying to change it up. In other words, if we had an understanding about what we was going to do and how we was going to do it, we ain't switching anything up. So this whole idea of, I want to make you my date. You're going to be my Valentine. You are not about to give me none on Valentine's Day. That is boyfriend material. That is serious relationship. Wow, we ain't doing that. I'm not doing nothing with you on my birthday. I'm not doing anything with you on any of these magical holidays. If it's your birthday, I am not about to be your birthday boo. Because that's how feelings get involved. And you got to set boundaries. Okay? So let me tell you something. First of all, I was blessed and fortunate that on birthdays and on holidays, I typically had somebody in my life. And there was one time I did not have anybody. My last birthday before I was single was October of 2013. That was the last time I was single. Now, Mr. Johnson was I guess we would say we were courting each other. I told him at my birthday, we went to the club because I had a birthday extravaganza weekend. He came out for the first night. He did not go to the dinner at Distrito, but we went to the club. I had a little happy game. My friends were all there. We all hung out. We was not dating officially, but he was somebody of interest. And I did know that I wanted something serious with him. But again, that's why he came around some of my friends. The truth of the matter was that was probably the last birthday I had where I went completely ridiculous. I did not have I didn't have anybody. I just kept it cute. I just, whatever. It was just not whatever. Cause I knew, I was like, look, I'm not trying to lead nobody on. And I would have that, but we was being respectful adults. Okay. That was my last time. Every birthday after that, I was off the market, child. So every birthday, I've never had that problem since. Okay, you're learning something. Learn something here. This is for everybody. I don't care if you're queer, you're straight, whatever. This is I'm trying to put you on game here. So boundaries need to be set if you're doing it. So if you're looking to hook up, my advice to you, if you're just single, want to motherfucking mingle, go mingle. But you better set some parameters. No fancy dates.
Do not lead no one on. If somebody's spending money and taking time and you're going on these dinners and you're doing all this stuff, that's misleading, okay? Now, let's be very clear. I'm not saying you can't go out for drinks or happy hour, okay? If you want to do a little happy hour, but see, let's be clear about the nature of the situation. It's straight to the room, okay? I'm not going no brunch with you. When I used to go out and used to do that kind of stuff, I meet somebody, I meet the dude or whatever, he'll say, let's go out for drinks, because maybe you want to get a vibe, okay? If it's your first time hooking up with the person, you may not want to just take them straight to the room, okay? Because you just never know what is given. You might be in a situation where you have the right to consent. You have the right to say, you know what? After much evaluation, I might not want to. I have had situations where I knew I was about to hook up with somebody or was planning to. Well, we met at a bar. I didn't want to just take you to my dorm. I didn't want to take you to my spot. So we went out for a drink, right? It's like a little blind audition. You go, you say, oh, how you doing? Oh, they cute. Okay, they doing what they supposed to do. You have cute little conversation, cute little conversation. Nothing too evasive. You ain't asking no real questions. Look, I don't know what they got going on. I don't care. Right now, hopefully they're not in a relationship with somebody, because that's messy. I don't do that. But I'm chilling. Okay. Couple of drinks, feeling nice, being cute. You say, okay, well, it's nice. Want to come over? Want to hang out? If they say yes, do what you do. But in that conversation, you lay down the law. You're like, look, we met on a dating app, or we met from something. Look, I'm in a situation. I'm just trying to have a good time. I got a relationship, whatever narrative you want to create. You tell them whatever you want to tell them, set the parameters then. If they're down, they're down. If they're not, respect them. They say, look, I'm actually looking for somebody. I have had situations where I was with somebody, met them, they met me, they said, you beautiful. I'm like, oh, thank you. That's nice. Well, someone like you, I feel like I want to wife you down. Not trying to wife you down. You got 2 kids from 2 different women. You ain't got nobody's degree. Not that I'm saying the degree matters, but let's be clear. The way in which I'm trying to have my life set up, this is too many red flags. For me, that's not what I want. But they was pressed. They were like, oh, I really want to be with you. Like, you're the type that I feel like you worth more than that. They're right, but I'm not right for that right now. So I had to just stop that. I had to say, well, it was nice meeting you. And thank you for the drinks. And I appreciate it. And, I could listen, you offer to buy your drink. Now, if a real gentleman, they're not going to pay. Listen, he was like, oh, no. I appreciate your transparency. I got the drinks on me. Thank you. A nice little hug, a kiss on the cheek, and you take your ass home. Okay? That's what I used to do sometimes. Sometimes I would be in situations where people would be like really trying to go into a different direction, and you realize what it is. And you'd be like, let me stop you right there, because you know yourself. Some people would be good for the bed, and some people be good for the wed. Okay, the wedding. Some people are good for the bedding. Everybody's not the same. Okay, and I had to stop that. Now that person might have seen that in me, but I didn't see that in them. Okay, some of y'all make the mistake of, because somebody sees that in you, you feel obligated to then get with them. No. Don't be desperate now. Don't be thirsty now. Somebody need to hear this right now. Okay, so that person told you they're beautiful. You beautiful. Great, you are beautiful. That's wonderful. That person likes you, cool. But if that person don't hit certain standards that you know you want in a spouse or a partner or a lover or a husband or whatever, then you need to abort that mission. Okay? So then let's talk about what happens if it works. So then you meet somebody. You come into the situation. They want to hook up with you. They want to talk to you. They like, okay, I got a situation. I ain't really trying to be nothing serious. I just want to have a good time. And you want that too. Bingo. We on the same page. So look, they might have 3 baby mamas. You don't care because you ain't trying to be the next one. They might have had a bad relationship or breakup or whatever. Who cares? You ain't trying to be their next lover. They might be traveling all the time. They might got other people in rotation. Who gives a fuck? Because what you're there to do is just to fuck. So you might say in that situation, you know what? Actually, hey, look, we all responsible. We practicing safe sex. We having consent. We all good. Do what you got to do, right? Never feel no type of way. That's what I would say when you're in a position where you don't want a relationship. Now, if you're interested in a relationship and marriage, date your equal, y'all. You know what that means. Date your equal. Date your equal. The reason why I feel like I've been married for as long as I have been and been in this long-term relationship, because I am married to somebody who I don't have to explain 1,000 things to. We don't argue about our politics. We don't argue about the respect of human beings and their rights to exist. We don't argue much about a lot of things. We don't argue about who's paying for what. We don't argue about bills. We don't argue about those things. You know why? Because we're equally yoked and we're aligned. Intellectually, socially, financially. We don't have those issues. Let me tell you, we will have petty arguments about silly things. I call them first world arguments. Silly stuff. You didn't put this on the calendar. Now I gotta change my schedule to come to your thing. You did not tell me we was going to that restaurant. Now I feel underdressed. You did not tell me what party we was going to. Like these are the fundamental conversations that we have. These are things of matters of consideration and thoughts. Changing plans at the last minute, which can be annoying sometimes when we have situations where we are trying to, be considerate of each other's schedules, right? Last minute things like, oh, you forgot to take the chicken out the fridge. You said you was going to take it out, but you was talking on that goddamn phone too long. Why? Right? True story. But real fundamental disagreements, we don't really have. Anything we could disagree about or be upset about can be resolved with a good love-making session, some time apart, to go outside and do something or whatever. Something that can happen in the morning can be resolved by dinner time, whatever disagreement, dispute. It's nothing that will be a long-standing feud that will be something that leads to uncertainty for weeks on end and anger and... No. You know why? Because there is an understanding about conflict resolution. There's an understanding about priorities. Nobody's perfect, okay? So yeah, sometimes I might be slacking. I might not be washing dishes when I should be washing dishes sometimes. Listen, life happens, okay? And sometimes I could be a little bratty and diva about it. I'm like, listen, I went out to save the world. That man be like, listen, we all are doing important things, but that don't mean that you don't do what you need to do. Mr. Johnson himself can sometimes be like, do we got to go to this event? Yes, we need to go to support this person. He look, I just want to be on the couch and I want to binge watch TV. Yes, but not today. Right? So we have those things. But I think the reality is that we don't, fundamental ideals and things of that nature, we don't feel like we're in competition with each other. I find that couples that are unequally yoked, right, that are not dating their equals, there's a lot of resentment in those relationships. Oh, I'm about to read some of y'all to filth. And I love y'all, but it's time to take it. Y'all wanted this relationship advice. Y'all gonna get the full-throated relationship advice. A lot of you all, I find in these relationships that are unequally yoked, there is a lot of disalignment. There's a lot of unevenness. And let's talk about these things, right? Ideals, right? Values. Some of you all have some really strong disagreements in your politics. I am not dating a Republican. Sorry, it's not happening. I know a lot of Republicans like me and my big old booty. No, I'm joking. But I'm not into Republicans. I'm not dating Republicans. Sorry, not going to do it. Okay. Let me get my words right about this. There could be concerns on cultural alignment. And I'm going to say cultural. Some people might have certain religious beliefs and ideals and mindsets about what people should do, gender roles and ideas around taste and things and a person's role and what they should be doing and all these other things. Let me tell you something right now. If y'all do not find common ground on those things before you get serious, it's only going to get worse in relationship. I just want that to be known. Okay? I'm sorry. If you have strong ideals about LGBTQ rights, about politics, about gender equality and other things, these are not the things to agree or disagree on. Because the way they will show up in relationships, in friendships, in connections are a problem. I've had friends, I'm not going to name them, that were friends with people that were homophobic. And those dynamics created issues in our relationship to the point where I stopped being friends with certain people because of who they were dating. Or there was a situation where they had to choose. And I didn't tell them who to choose, but they chose their own consciousness because the person they was dating was not emotionally or socially, or culturally mature. I've tried to be friends with people like that, and I realized that it came to bite me in the ass. I used to have a friend of mine who was black, not gonna name names, that was a black Republican that supported Trump. And we didn't know that at the time until later on in the relationship, but they showed up in certain ways, and we just was like, oh, they're just who they are. But baby, it ended up becoming a problem in the friendship in different ways that we did not foresee and foreshadow. And I am not friends with that person anymore at all. And this is like back in 2016 and shit. This was before, this was a lot going on. But I say this to say, some of you all are so desperate to have a spouse or to be loved by somebody that you're willing to let these things pass. And these things manifest in different ways. I want to also talk about socially. You got to know what the tastes are with the person. My husband and I, we know who we are. And we're not ashamed of who we are. We are book reading, fine dining, eating, theater ticket going, sons of guns. Okay? We know what we like and we know what we do. Some of you all are like so socially distant from the people that you all date. And you're trying to force them to do the things that you like. And I'm not saying they gotta love everything that you do. Let's be very clear. But there's got to be some social alignment. The type of friends you all hang out with, the type of places you go. If you're with somebody who don't want to do any of the things you want to do, or go out to anything you want to do, or shame every single thing that you do, that is going to be a problem. And I see so many people do that. Like, they don't like to go to, I always got to make them go to fancy restaurants. They don't like it, but I got to make them go to this. I don't make my man go anywhere, honey. Okay? All this making people do things like all the time, that is just like, that's a red flag. Now, let me be very clear. I'm married to a man who's not a super sports fan. I don't know if I could be married to a sports fanatic. I don't know. The dick got to be like top tier. But then you can find top tier dick without the being a sports fanatic. I'm not a sports person. I think there are some people that is in a world where, look, Mr. Johnson keeps the score. He knows the games and stuff, but he's not obsessed. There are some people like that is a part of their life. Like they got the flags up. They got the jerseys on every day. They watch every Sunday. I'm not that girl. I might be. Maybe. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know. I'm a box fan. Like if Mr. Johnson, we had some box seats or something, we was in a box, I might be down with that. But I'm not a tailgate. I'm not one of those people. Like I'm not saying that we got to do everything together, like everything. But I feel like if this is something that's a part of your life and it's something that's really a part of your life and I have no interest in it, that's very telling. Like, I'm a theater girl. I love musicals. I love plays. I love fine dining. I love restaurants. Let me tell you something. One of the biggest conflicts in our relationship was very early on. Mr. Johnson was a vegetarian, okay? He did not eat meat. I thought that was going to be a major break in the relationship because I was like, I don't understand. What do you mean you don't eat meat? What do you mean you don't eat meat? Like, what does that mean? And be mature, you listeners. But I was like, my life, my food, my steak, tasting menus, like dietary restrictions. Like, what? What do you mean you don't eat meat? This is going to change a lot of our social dynamics. I like a good barbecue and cookout. And I hear you. My refrigerator, I'm not spending no money on a fucking veggie patty. Listen, you can call it immature all you want, but it was something that I was concerned about. Again, first world problems. Nonetheless, he eats meat now. And that's not because I forced him to. I think he just naturally, vegetarian was a moment in his life. Not so much now. He clearly is a carnivore. But I saw this to say that it's important to be socially aligned. Not on every single thing, but there needs to be a common general census because this is a person you're going to be hanging out with for the rest of your life. If you're married, you do it right. This is the person that you're going to be with. Like, there's got to be some connection there and some things in common, right? And financially, I do think financial alignment and intellectual alignment. Shall I put these things together? I'll start with intellectual. There's got to be a level of intellectual alignment. And a lot of people say, well, a degree or not degree, whatever. I just want to say that I am who I am. And I do not, in my relationship, at least with me, I don't want to be educating a person that I'm dating all the time. I don't find that sexy. I don't. There are some women and some men, that like to be the smartest person in a relationship, and they want to be the person that just tells the person everything, like a mama complex. I don't want to be nobody's mama. I don't want to be anybody's daddy. I don't want to be that person. I don't have a desire for that. There's some people that love that. They're like, oh yeah, she's the smart person in the relationship. I don't know nothing, and she just tell me everything. It's not appealing to me. I don't want to be that person. I think for myself, I like a man that challenges me intellectually. I like a man that we both know different things. We both have different ideas. We both can think on our feet. We both have facts. We both believe in science. I need that. I just want to be able to talk about something, and everything I talk about should not be challenged like what do you mean that this is that? Like, I don't, it's like, I don't like the contrarian. I don't want to date a contrarian. I don't. I want to date someone who like we talk about politics, right? And we'll talk about certain candidates. Like we're talking about this congressional race right now. We have our opinions about who we like and why. And it's not an end of the world thing. Like, I'm just kind of like, okay, I hear what you're saying. And we're like, we'll revisit this when we get close to election. But we have thoughts about things, about campaigns, about things. But they come from a place of intellectual curiosity that we can change our minds on certain things. I will give you a good example. Who did we think about? Like, okay, for the mayoral race, right? I was very much a supporter of Rebecca Reinhart. Personally, I thought Rebecca Reinhart would be good for the job. Mr. Johnson had the perspective of enjoy Rebecca Reinhart, liked Rebecca Reinhart, but saw the appeal of, Sherelle Parker in the sense of thinking, Sherelle has a great, somebody like her should be given a chance. And I said, I hear that, but I don't know. If she gets in office, I don't really know. But we had different thoughts about it. And once Sherelle Parker won, and as things have changed and shifted, we have had shifting opinions about Sherelle Parker and how she has led. But we did not go from, oh, you're supporting a Republican and I'm supporting a Democrat. Like, what? No. But that's what I'm saying. We had informed opinions. And it wasn't like his reason, the rationale for why he thought Sherelle was ready or more prepared for the job than Rebecca, and my sense was fighting words, right? And so I like someone who's an independent thinker but also somebody where we can be civil and we can have different opinions and thoughts, that it doesn't feel like I gotta like talk someone down a ledge. I appreciate the civility in it. There are so many things that I have learned from him just in the work that he do and the ways in which he's worked in government. Like, I have become a better journalist covering politics, I would argue, because of the work that he's done working in City Hall. Like, I've learned a lot about how City Hall moves in internal politics in ways that I would have not understood on the outside looking in. I've learned a lot from him. And he's learned a lot from me about journalism, about media. I mean, he does PR communications now, but I think he's been a better publicist and a better person in what he do. And I think that's why he's got great clients, because he understands the journalist journey and respects it, and also understands that and understands the field, and is coming from a space of learning. And so there's so much alignment there that makes our intellectual equal, makes us intellectually equal to each other. Do we have to agree on everything? No. But can we understand each other in a better way that doesn't feel like an exhausting exercise? Yes. And then lastly, financial alignment. This gets controversial with people because people talk about breadwinners and making money, who makes money, whatever. I don't say there needs to be equal financially. I think what needs to be understood is financial priorities. People think it's about who makes the most money. Money can change all the time. And in my relationship, money has definitely changed through time. Who you think is making more here or there, you'll be surprised sometimes. I think y'all get caught up in the flashiness, but Mr. Johnson got a nice little bank. We got a nice little bank in a nice little situation right now. What I would say by financial alignment is it's not so much about who's making what at the moment to which you're dating. It's about the plan. What is the plan? What are the investments? What are you investing in? What is your strategy? How do you plan to achieve this? What are your beliefs in spending? Do you know how to budget? Do you understand? Are you cheap as fuck? Because if you are, I don't want to date you. But are you somebody that just spend money recklessly? I don't want to date you either. There's got to be a financial alignment. I have found that a lot of couples will clash based on financial priorities. Somebody can be super cheap, like dirt ass cheap, frugal as fuck, and it drives the nature of the person they're dating. But then you got some people that just don't see money. They just overspend but don't have money, but want to just chase everything and just spend recklessly. And that's not good either. You got to have a balance and a discipline. And I think Mr. Johnson and I definitely have that. And I think that gives us alignment. That's my equal. Because he's somebody who's like, look, I like to splurge. When we up, let's do a little extra. When we need to be a little bit more mindful about what's coming up, let's realign on that, right? There's just a good value system on how we view finances that make us equal. I see a lot of people that do not have that alignment, where they date somebody that's just either super obsessed with money, where it's like, oh, you know, we need to put stock in our kids' names. I mean, like, what the fuck? Give that kid a birthday cake and sit the fuck down. Like, I get annoyed when I see LLC couples. Like, yeah, this person got money. I'm not gonna tell you who I'm talking about, but somebody in my group might know who I'm talking about. They're not in. We went to college with this person. We're not friends with them now, but I bumped into them at Martha's Vineyard, and I think that them and their wife and their nice little couple, but this guy is just so like extra economics. Oopsie, did I name that name drop? But this person's like, oh, I got LLCs in my kid's name. Your kid is 5. Let your kid have a birthday cake and enjoy themselves. Like, I understand trying to set your kids up for success, but some people just be doing the most. I'm like, is that impressive that you gave your kid an LLC at 5? What can that kid do with that? Give that kid a Tonka trunk and sit the fuck down, sir. Like, I don't know. I just have these different viewpoints about it. And I love the fact that Mr. Johnson and I, like, yes, we save money, we do all those things, but we also live while we're enjoying life. Like, Cardi B came out with tickets. He wanted some good tickets. He just said, look, I want to buy some tickets. Let's go. I'm like, damn, okay, let's sure. I didn't have that on my bingo ticket, but just want to have fun and do it, right? Let's go out to dinner. We want to go out to a nice restaurant. Why should we, like, when we go out to a restaurant, we take it to the max. If we're going to go out on a day, have fun, let's have a good time. And let's also encourage each other to take financial risks. Let's invest in things. Let's take risks. Let's do different things, right? And let's grow. And I think sometimes there are people in relationships that come in very hard. I believe in a relationship where both people in that relationship are splurging on each other. I don't believe in this mindset of, I'm the king and you my princess and I'm going to spoil you. You better spoil and pamper your man just as much as he pampers you. We do not do that here. You better believe in gender equality when it comes to that, because this is how resentment formulates. This is how people become insecure. This is how people hold grudges. This is how people don't feel valued. You should be in relationships with people, where, they are treating you with the utmost respect and responsibility. You should definitely do that. You should definitely show people that love. I do not like stories where I hear stories of men, and these are heteronormative relationships, where the man is always the one coming up with ideas, paying for the trips, paying for everything, spending everything, coming up with the consideration, and women are just sitting there being pretty and being accessorized. I don't think that's a good relationship. I don't think that's a healthy relationship. Even in queer relationships, I hear stories of queer women relationships where the quote unquote the stud or the masculine, the center, is the only one doing all the providing and all the thinking. No, I don't like that. In my relationship, y'all like, who the girl, who the guy? Stop that. We are both men, and we're both men that are responsible, fiscally responsible, and considerate people. I am going to think of him with the utmost love and consideration he thinks of me. And sometimes I think that's the beauty of being in my relationship, is that there are no gender roles. I get so tired of people prescribing these ridiculous gender roles, and it's unequally yoked, and it creates resentment. I know straight men in relationships where they feel this pressure on them to have to do everything. That's not a relationship. That's not a relationship, y'all. That is some type of arrangement. Nobody should feel like they have to have the all on them. I'm not saying that it's financially, but emotionally. Show up for your spouse. Show up for your husband. Show up for your wife. Show up for your lover. Show up for them. And be considerate. I get annoyed when I hear people talk about that. Oh, that's my money. Ain't no such thing as my money in a relationship. What are you talking about? It's my money. This is my stuff. What? If you really love a person and you're really finding your equal, you will never find it as a half and half, 50-50, this and this and this and this. Because you're with somebody that you trust. And when you're with your equal, it's somebody that you trust. It's a companionship. It's a friendship, but it's a love that builds and grows and evolves. And so, I don't know. I spend a lot of time talking about this, but I really, I don't give relationship advice often. But as I get older, the more and more I get older, the more and more I want to tell you all. Some of you all want to find people that you think are lower than you, or you think that you can be the star or the who's the prize. We're both the motherfucking prizes. All this, who's the prize, who's the this, who's the. No one in this marriage is bigger than the program. We're the producers of the program. We're co-producers in this thing called love, in this production. Think about what that means, okay? Who's the breadwinner? We're both co-owners of the bakery. Who's the star? We're the galaxy. So I just want y'all to think about that in your relationships. You know, some people might be introverted and extroverted. You know, I'm clearly the extrovert in the marriage. He's an introvert, but he knows how to pop out and show out when he needs to. Don't get it twisted. You listen, you get Mr. Johnson at the party. Some of y'all know, and y'all hang out with him, y'all realize, oh. And so when I look at relationships like Barack and Michelle Obama, Hillary and Bill Clinton, those are relationships where they met their equals. And that's why they've been together for so long. Because as you can see, you don't really know who to star in that relationship. You don't really know, because they both are doing the damn thing and they both shine bright. And because of the fact that they shine bright together. Beyonce and Jay-Z, equals. I gotta say it, they're equals. They complement each other. You understand when you look at that relationship that they both bring value to each other. They both bring value. They say, what you bringing to the table? Baby, we are the table. Find that person. It takes time. It do. You may have to kiss a couple of frogs before you find your prince, ladies. But find that person, love that person, and give that person that level of consideration and that level of respect. Give it to them. But find your equal so that you don't be in resentment and regret. That's all. So moving along to movies, Oscar season is getting a little weird, y'all. I don't know what's happening at the box office, but these movies that are supposed to be Oscar bait are not doing as well as people are expecting. Kiss of the Spider Woman did not do that well, which is making people think that is J-Lo still in the running for that Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. A lot of people are saying Tiana Taylor, with One Battle After Another, might be the front runner now. The streets are talking because One Battle After Another did really well at the box office, has a lot of buzz. You know, good things are going for that film. And so they're thinking that Tiana Taylor, for that Best Supporting Actress Oscar nomination, that she might be the one. Tiana Taylor might get it. And you know, she's been gunning for an Oscar for a minute. You know, she was in another great film that I watched. Her film credits are not bad. I mean, she was in a Tyler Perry movie. She's like, Barry! But you know, she has definitely done some good work. And I think Tiana Taylor might surprise us with an Oscar nomination. I mean, some of the movies she was in, me and Dr. Parks went and saw 1001 in advanced screening a couple of years ago. This was like 2 years ago. We saw 1001, and a lot of people were saying that that could have been a possible Oscar nomination for her. Her performance in that was really, really good. And so Tiana Taylor has been building herself up to this point in her career. And I think it's interesting that the person that she's dating currently is an actor in his own right. And so Aaron Pierre is an actor. So is this the new Black Hollywood? Are they trying to be the new Black Hollywood couple? Like, are they trying to, I mean, is her dating him an upgrade for her to build on this career that she's aspiring to in Hollywood? Who knows? But I just wanted to put that out there, that it's been interesting to see. Like The Rock, they're saying that movie, The Smashing Machine with The Rock and Emily Blunt, may not even get any Oscar nominations because they're not doing good at the box office. And so, look, I'm waiting to see what Wicked's going to bring to the table. I'm waiting to see a couple other movies that come. But this is a very interesting, dynamic right now. Moving on to music. Taylor Swift is going to be back on the charts at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 200. Looks like she's going to get a second week at number 1, and it seems like, she's doing her big one. I mean, Taylor Swift literally had taken over the top 12. All 12 of her songs of her album took over the top 12 of the Billboard Hot 100. And she's just doing it. The streaming is there. The sales are there. But I would be remiss if I did not talk about the success of that album and the fact that it continues to slay. But in talking about music, because this has been very telling to me. D'Angelo has passed away. Such a major artist. And this is a string of black men that we've lost. So many black men have been dying, in music. And it's been very telling. It's been very telling. It's been very sad to watch. But so many men have been dying lately. D'Angelo died at 51, and that was through pancreatic cancer. But there's been alarming lots of deaths in the hip hop and R&B world. We've lost a lot of men under 60. Magoo, DMX, Coolio, Biz Markie. They're dying from heart disease and stroke, diabetes, and cancer-related issues. This is serious, and this is a problem that we are not talking about enough. But a lot of this is a growing list, and these are all Gen X men. These are the boomers. I'm sorry, I'm not the boomers. The Gen Xers. The Gen Xers are dying prematurely. Fat Man Scoop, Irv Gotti, De La Soul, David Trogley the Dove, right? Lance Riddick, heart disease. Mr. C, passed away from diabetes-related coronary heart disease. DJ Unk from Walk It Out, 43. Chadwick Boseman died of colon cancer. DJ Clark Kent passed away at 58. All these men are dying under 60. 54, 51, 53, 54, 60, 57, 43, 43 years old, 58. Okay, this is serious. The Office of Minority Health said that according to the Office of Minority Health, with colon cancer or colorectal cancer from 2019 to 2023, black men were found to have a 5-year mortality rate that is 37% higher than the overall population of American men. According to VCU Health, black men have a 70% higher risk of being diagnosed with heart failure than white men. This is serious. I am 34. I've been, my biological father passed away in his 40s. I want to say he passed away around 48 years old. My father. It was related to thyroid issues, kidney. I think it was kidney related. My biological father passed away in his 40s. He had not lived to be 50. I think he passed away around 40. I think maybe 46. We talked before he passed away. Take care of your health. That changed, his passing, not genetic related, but what it was a wake-up call for me. I went through a lot of stress during the pandemic. I take my health seriously. I do. That's why I talk about vaccinations. That's why I talk about, getting in touch with a health physician, or that's why I talk about being mindful about, look, I'm not saying you got to not drink, not do things, but just keeping your health in mind, staying, doing what you got to do the right tests, just really prioritize your wellness, especially as black men and black women. This month is not Black History Month. This month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Get the mammograms. Apparently after 40, you should get a mammogram at 40. And then every year after that, women should be getting it on a regular basis annually after 45. If you have breast cancer in your family, there's an encouragement to do it. And they say that black women may not have the most severe forms of breast cancer, but are dying at a higher rate. Check out your breasts. Touch on your lumps. If you have them, check your armpits, the lymph nodes. On my last show, I talked to Dr. Ayla Stanford on my show, and she talked about, she's a physician. She was giving expert advice, women, men too, Matthew Knowles had a breast cancer scare. Touch your body, get familiar with yourself, get an annual checkup, do all the things you need to do. Do not be afraid to take medication if you need it. Not just for your physical, but for your mental. if you have anxiety, if you have chronic depression, all those things, take care of that health, because if that mental health is not okay, it does impact the physical health and wellness. So I wanted to say that, And also I want to also talk about this. This is very briefly, but there's been a lot of people romanticizing D'Angelo's relationship with Angie Stone. They do have a child together, and that child is now an adult. And it's unfortunate that both of their parents have passed away in less than a year. Angie Stone passed away earlier this year. D'Angelo has been battling this pancreatic cancer for quite some time, to the point that when he didn't perform at the Roots picnic, people was worried then, but there was no word. Let me talk about the romanticizing. D'Angelo and Angie Stone were together when he was 19 years old and she was 31 years old. A lot of people talk about that relationship and the concerns around grooming. The timeline to which they met and were sexual has been debated, but we know at least at 19, at the start of 19, that was when I believe they had their child. When he was 19, she was 31. Red flags. And I think, respectfully, the way that people talk about that relationship, that dynamic, it was emotionally abusive. Some people have said. The dynamics of a woman at such an older age with him. I would just say this. When I was 31, my brother was 19. I would never date any of my brother's classmates or even look near them. Okay? I was 31 years old. That dynamic was the age, is the age gap between me and my younger brother. Listen, just because something is legal don't make it mean it's ethical. I'm just going to put that there. And then lastly in music, there's been a lot of chatter about Mario showing his ass at an event with his apology. I don't know what planet Mario's on, but if you've seen the video that went viral of him snapping at that cameraman, listen, if I was that cameraman, I would have popped off on him, because it was not called for. And Mario's half-ass non-apology was also very disappointing as well. Like, no one should be talked to in any type of way. And I don't know. Sometimes I think that Mario's one of the celebrities where he thinks he's bigger than the program. And I'm not saying anybody should talk to anybody in any type of way, but just, I was a little bit annoyed when I saw that clip, and just the lack of humanity and respect. Not okay. And there's been a lot of chatter about Brandy and Monica. Brandy has come out, during the Chicago on the stop run. Brandy just completely missed half the set, did not perform the rest of her songs. Monica was left to the stage to herself. I heard Kelly Rowland's been killing it on tour. Brandy said, look, she was a little bit, felt like she was going to pass out or something like that. She had to go get medical help and take care of her wellness. She thought she would potentially faint. Listen, that's all important, and she should not be fainting, and we want her to be well. But Brandy, you are a professional. She said that she was about dehydration. What are you doing? Drink water. I don't give a fuck if you think you're bloated, girl. You're too small. Drink you some water, hydrate, get over your nerves, and get your ass on that stage and perform for your fans. Like, when I hear stories about performance, I'm not saying it. Girl, you have not been on the road for that long. And I'm not going to compare you to people, because I know y'all want to compare to certain artists. Let's not do that. But this is a tour. This is a nationwide tour. Like, pull it together. Like, seriously, hydrate and rest. Rest. Drink water. Take your vitamins. But, like, you got paying customers and fans that have really saved their last to go out here. We're in the middle of a little mini recession. Okay, government shutdowns and jobs, and people done bought these tickets. See, I was almost going to go to Atlantic City. Listen, I'm going to be quiet. I did not buy a ticket to this tour. We was going to go. I was like, I don't know, because I'm still on the borderline about whether or not they're going to even make it through this tour. Between Brandy dropping out for these hydration health issues, between Monica and Brandy still, I don't know if you don't know with them. So I'm just hoping that they pull it together. I'm going to leave it at that. So, Abbott Elementary, like I said earlier in the show, was really good. I really love this episode. I don't want to tell too much, but basically this is the episode where they film during the Phillies game. And we know the Phillies just lost and they're not going to go to the playoffs. But this was a really interesting, show. So, want to put that out there. A really good episode. The season has been really good thus far. Some really great moments, some really Philly love. I love it. Want to talk about, because I want to talk about one thing else, but I'm going to get into it. Euphoria season 3 is coming. They have announced the new cast. Sydney Sweeney, Zendaya, Coleman Domingo. The cast is coming back. A lot of the cast is returned. Not everybody, but a lot of the ones are coming. There's going to be some new cast members, some guest stars. Danielle Deadwaller is coming. She's going to be on there. Rosalia apparently is going to be on the show this season. There's a Danielle Deadwaller. I know what you're doing, sis. You're trying to get you an Emmy nomination. You're trying to get you an Emmy, girl. I see what you're doing. She's been snubbed for the Oscar so many times. I've been like, when are we going to give Danielle Deadwaller an Oscar? The Piano Lesson, I thought was going to be a Best Supporting Actress nomination for her. That didn't happen because the movie did not get really good reviews. Then there was the show, oh my goodness, the film that should have gotten her the Oscar nomination, and it did not. I want to make sure that I name this film because this film was, she did this film justice, and I want to name it Till. Yes, the movie is called Till. It is she plays the mother. She plays Mammy Till, the mother who, of course, her son was murdered, 14-year-old Emmett Till, in August of 1955. The movie Till talks about Mammy Till trying to get justice for her son and what happens to him. It's a beautiful film. It was a really great film. She should have gotten a Best Actress nomination. That was one of the most disgusting snubs in Oscar history in recent years. She's been in a lot of great films. She was in The Woman in the Yard. She was in The Harder They Fall. She was in Parallel. She was in The Devil to Pay. I Saw the TV Glow. She's been in some interesting films. The Piano Lesson was a really strong film for her. I hope that we get her that Oscar nomination and Oscar win soon. But she's going to be in Euphoria, which I think is going to get her a Best Guest Actress Emmy nomination of sorts because, Danielle Deadwaller is gold. I'm excited about this new season. I know there's been a lot of anticipation. It's been a long time, but it looks like they're on the right track, right? Another Jersey show I'm watching. I watched the finale of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. I liked the season finale. I really enjoyed the drama. A lot of questions linger about the future. Carly Red really was more mellow this season overall. And I think because she's always been dating someone every season, but she played a back seat this season. It seemed like she wanted to be a little bit more low key this season, which I can appreciate. There was also some drama. That Zayn and his wife, I don't know if y'all been following them, but Zayn and his wife on this show has been the most cringiest, most annoying, but most interesting, entertaining couple on the entire series. Kirk and Rashida definitely brought the fire this season. Yandy and Mendeecees, I'm at this point where I don't care for, this season was very spicy with them, but I'm over them. It's time. Y'all are not ready to really go there with your relationship in this show. There's issues going on, but at this point, it's like, I know y'all don't like each other. We all know y'all don't like each other. How about y'all just wrap this up like a taco and go? I'm not really intrigued about the relationship anymore. It's obvious there's infidelity. It's obvious they got an open relationship. It's obvious like each other. Just break up already, child. I don't care for them another season. It's obvious that Kirk and Rashida are going to be Bird and Birdette of the damn show. It's obvious that they're never going to divorce each other, break up each other, no matter what he do. I don't really understand their purpose. I am very intrigued by Zayn, Lil Zayn, but Zayn and his wife, how they're going to navigate this show together in the next season, because they are just so, oh my gosh, they're entertaining, but they're annoying. I don't know how to describe it, but they keep the mess going. And they start fights with everybody. So it's just no way to know where to put them and where to place them. Jock is okay on this show. Kendra and him's relationship, their relationship is a little, I don't know what to do with them. This show, who's really keeping the energy, and I must give him credit, even though he annoys me. But, Lil Scrappy, I must say, has been really entertaining. He keeps the drama. His love life is a mess, but these women want to keep it there. Mama D is annoying, but she's not going anywhere. They're problematic as a family unit for various reasons, but I do find them to be good for reality TV. I was highly entertained this season. The drama was realistic, but the drama felt real, but the drama stayed even. Now, this show that I call myself watching, it's called Love Cabin. It's on Zeus. I think they want to be a Love Island. Ray J is the host, which is already doing the most anyway. I'm struggling with the show. I'm watching it. I'm a little intrigued. It's a little spicy. It's interesting, right? Everybody on the show, I guess, is attractive and they're all right. I'm just curious how it's going to play out. It just started. The new series just started last week. I'm following it. I'm trying to see what it's giving. We're going to follow Love Cabin. I'm not going to talk about it every episode because I don't know if you're going to be watching. But if you are watching Love Cabin, let's talk about it in DMs. But there's a lot going on there, So I'm going to put that on your radar. Okay. Now for the show that I really want to talk about. Let's talk about The Perfect Neighbor on Netflix. I've been hearing that y'all been watching it, okay? The Perfect Neighbor is a documentary about a white Florida woman who shot and killed her neighbor, a black mother of 4 in 2023. And they pieced together footage using footage from police body cameras. There was no talking heads, okay? There was just 2 years of police footage recordings interacting with the shooter, who was a 6-year-old white woman named Susan Lorsons, who recently made complaints about local kids being found while playing in a vacant lot near her Florida home, as well as body cam footage of interviews with her neighbors. This happened in 2024. She was found guilty of manslaughter with a firearm and is now serving a 25-year prison sentence. This documentary, y'all, it's fire. It's fire. It needs to get an Oscar nomination if they can do that. If they can do an Oscar nomination for Best Documentary, I have never seen anything so riveting in a long time. I am very impressed. I am very intrigued. I recommend this documentary on Netflix. I mean, Netflix documentaries have been hit and miss at certain times, but this one is a game changer. I am truly, truly intrigued. And I'll leave it at that. Watch it. If you have not watched it, please watch it. So I'm coming into this week, we're now in mid-October. The month is going by, isn't it? It's going by. I got some musical. I'm going to go to this musical this week called Kimberly or Akimbo, which I'm looking forward to seeing at the Ensemble Arts. I'm looking forward to Kimberly and Kimbo. Looking forward to some other things coming up the pipeline. I might have some more surprising news for you all. We'll see. But there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in my land. And we're going to follow it every step of the way, every step of the journey. And so stay tuned. And as always, be well and be best. Ernestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.